how do we talk about the end of our favorite shit, man? How do we talk about mourning our favorite adult animated show that was currently airing?
Yeah, that was it. I was on stream last night, and like somebody was like, one of the questions somebody asked me was, "What is my favorite like show that's running?" And my answer was always Tuka and Birdie. I'm like, well, it was Tuka and Birdie until like 2 fucking hours ago. Like now I don't even know. Yeah, man,
That's
it
where we're
stinks
at.
on nice. Stinks on nice.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
People were finding out that Tuka and Birdie was canceled in the stream, and that was the most depressing shit ever. It was like people in caps, like, what? No way! Like,
Dude,
shit.
People were also finding out that Tuka and Birdie had a second and third season
Get the
by
fuck
its
out
cancellation. Like, I mean,
man.
I've gotten comments on I just did that Tuka video.
Right.
I'm mad. I'm a little mad at myself that I didn't make more Tuka videos over the course of seasons 2 and 3. I really wanted to like do it justice, and the idea I had ended up being like so much enhanced by the season 3 plot that I was like, I should wait till the end of season 3 to do it. So like, I'm kind of glad I waited for the quality of the videos, but I'm also like getting so many comments in that video that are like, I didn't even know seasons 2 and 3 existed, going to binge it now. And I'm just sad that like, if I had fucking made any video on season 2 or 3, and I thought about it so many times, the more people would have gone to watch it. Although I don't know if that would have saved it though. Like,
right. Yeah. That's what I was going to say. Like, ain't that the way though? Like, I've done that multiple times where like a thing that I fucking love just like got canceled, and then I instantly, because of like the platform I have, I'm like, fuck, this was my fault. Like I should have did something. Like I feel like I always feel that way. Like I felt that way about Flatbush Misdemeanors, and like I've been on this podcast talking about it the whole time, but like I'm like, maybe I should do a Flatbush video, and I'm saying all that shit in my head, and then I just never did it, and then I just kind of woke up to that shit one day. And it's the worst. It's the worst.
Is. I did at least like when season 1 got canceled, after they got canceled on Netflix, I did make a video called "We Could Save Tuka and Birdie," and that video didn't do great, but like the show got.
I don't remember that.
I've unlisted it since the show came back. So
okay,
and it was just a short thing. Let me see if I can find it. I think it was a pretty short video of just me being like, "Look, this show doesn't deserve to be canceled. Let's rally behind it, sign this petition, tweet about it." And from the reaction to that video, from the fact that like I didn't get all that many, I didn't get all that much response to that video, I was kind of like, I think the show's dead. So like the fact that we got 2 additional seasons anyways.
Two.
Yes. And honestly, like they were definitely considering a 4th season. I know that it was budgeted out. I won't say how. I know that they had budgeted it. I know that they were like mulling it over. And this feels pretty explicitly because of the HBO Warner or the Warner Discovery merger. Obviously there's the stuff with Haddish too, which I'm sure played a role in their decision, but like ultimately I believe this is a cost-cutting measure by Zaslav. Yeah. He's got such a good like villain name. I hate that. Fucking Zaslav.
Yeah, man, the Z, bro. It's the Z. It's the Z, and it has like a V at the end. Those are like
sounds like a super villain.
Yeah, because he is, bro. Like.
I know.
I don't understand what the fuck is going on anymore.
They have canceled, allegedly they have canceled 38 animated shows. 38 animated shows.
Gross number.
It's so fucking frustrating. Like, especially during the pandemic when things couldn't be shot live action. They were like, all right, let's fucking greenlight all this animation. Like, animation will save our industry while we're struggling. Bro. And now they're like, just like, it's getting ridiculous. There's also now like, it's coming out on Twitter that it looks like season 2 of this new Spider-Man show that's coming out has gotten cut, like gotten either cut or they're going to replace the crew or something. Like it seems like, I mean, there seems to be a lot of questions about it. I feel like they just cut the order. But like, yeah, people are tweeting about, like, people who worked on the show are tweeting about how they're looking for work. Like, we're looking for work very suddenly. And like I'm actually, I mean, granted, maybe it's just deeper in production than I thought. I'm shocked that we're still going to get Velma. I'm shocked that some of these things are surviving. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like It sucks. I don't know. Like, it felt like we were on the precipice of like animation, like especially adult animation, but animation being able to like make these leaps and bounds into new territory, and it feels like that has just been like cut off at the knees. Like,
Yeah,
it's just
totally,
ugh.
bro. Like I to the point where like I can't even think of that many running cartoons. Like I like you know what I mean? Like besides like the ones that are never gonna go anywhere, like
Right.
Simpsons or like Family Guy, like South Park and shit. Like I
Rick
can't
and Morty
really.
now.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, like the shit that you know is not gonna. Besides that, like I don't fucking know, bro. And it's
Well,
it's 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 getting weird.
maybe this is a good opportunity to shout out some new shows that are good though. Like
Mhm.
I think I don't know if I've talked about it yet, but Pantheon it's on AMC Plus and High Dive. I don't know if it'd be your thing, Tariq, but you should check it out. It is
They've
an
been
hour
asking
long,
me about it in my and when I went live yesterday on YouTube.
dude.
I got a whole bunch of people. So I was like,
Just
and then
I
I
can't.
fucking lied. I said that I was like, yeah, Johnny been talking about it, and I think like Nostalgia and Nick was like, I've never said a single thing about it. I was like, oops. I don't know, man. Everybody icon look the same to me now.
Yeah, I made that mistake
Yeah.
today. And,
They don't need to know what that mistake is, but that shit was funny. That shit was funny.
Oh man. Um, yeah, I can't tell if it would be your thing. Like, it's an hour long, like sort of cybery sci-fi drama. It's not like sci-fi set in the future. It's like sci-fi set in the present, but it has to do with like crazy technology and like advancements in
Sure.
technology on Earth right now, and how that propels the human race forward into this crazy direction. And but it's hour long sci-fi drama animated, really. And it's also like able to, it's primarily a drama, but it also has action elements because there are these really cool, it's hard to describe, but there's these cool things they can do in like the cyberspace realm. It's weird. It's a little matrixy, but not
Okay.
fully matrixy. It's really great. Season one is excellent, excellent, excellent. There's already a season two in the works. That's what they signed it on for initially, so maybe they'll make more. Hopefully, I mean, I don't know who has AMC Plus. That's the problem. Check out a free trial and watch. It's like 8 episodes. They're really great.
Ain't that that's
Um,
man, that's what happened. I remember when Harley Quinn came out, nobody was gonna fucking get DC Universe. HBO
DC
Max is the
Universe,
best
yeah.
thing that ever happened to that fucking
I
cartoon,
know.
which
It's a
is like
shame.
a wild
DC,
sentence to say.
and I had a lot of
But
like my buddy Hector worked. He was one of the hosts at DC Universe, and like a lot of the people I worked with at Nerdist were over there, and they had like
mm,
such great teams, and they were really people who loved that those worlds and those characters and that content, and that
for
like it's
sure.
just so many of these streaming endeavors just end up not working out because it's so niche.
Exactly. Yeah,
You don't
that's
get
really
the
just that's what it was. It was the niche.
but like I don't know, man, but like I'm also now at this point, like, can we get some kind of like, can someone come in and just make an animation streaming net service like that is going to save all of these shows from death? Like,
That I don't know, man. Too many IPs, bro. We in a headlock era.
well,
every
it's
fucking thing is in a
I mean
fucking chokehold at this point.
thinking about the new show. So, well, let me shout out a couple other new shows. Little Demon, I've only watched a few of, which is on FX. Little Demon is good. Like, it's a pretty interesting show. Way more
Mm-hmm.
lore heavy than I thought. Very funny. But it's just like, what if a teenage girl like found out she's the daughter of the devil and the antichrist, and like has to like embrace that role while going through high school.
Right, right.
Really fun. And it's like starring Danny DeVito as the devil, and his real life daughter plays his daughter in the show.
Mm-hmm.
um and Aubrey Plaza plays the mom. It's fun. It's really fun. But like Smiling Friends, we've talked, I know a lot of people here are fans of Smiling Friends. I keep
Talked
watching
about it on the
Invincible.
mailbag.
Invincible season 2 will come out next year probably, but I don't know, like what else is new? Like, everything
Um,
is new is going to be old. Beavis and Butthead's back, and it's good, but it's Beavis and Butthead. The show came out in the 90s.
right,
Futurama's about to
yeah.
come back, but it's a reboot. King of the Hill's allegedly in line to come back. That's like, I don't know, man. Where's the new shit? Where's the new
Yeah,
shit?
man. I don't fucking I'm drawing a blank, bro. Like I don't know. Like the only thing cuz when I guess when I watch like new stuff, every week is usually I watch I always watch the animation domination shit, so I always run that Monday morning.
Right.
And then like the rest of the shit I watch is like Abbott Elementary and shit like that, like live action stuff. Like I don't even know if there's like an animated thing that I keep up with. The only blank I'm not drawing is Batwheels, and that's just because we kind of watched that at random once. Because they got that black ass Robin, man. I didn't know they had a black Robin on on Batwheels, and we were watching it. I didn't know.
Do you know who was originally that? Do you know about the story about them casting Robin in Batman Forever in the 90s?
No.
Well, I guess it was down to. Hold on, let me make sure I don't get the brother wrong. It was like the guy who got it was Chris O'Donnell. Yeah, okay, I would have gotten it wrong. So it was Chris O'Donnell was cast as it, but the guy that Joel Schumacher wanted to play Robin in Batman Forever was Marlon Wayans.
I knew you were gonna say fucking Wayans. No,
isn't that crazy? Like, and I guess. And he was cast, and then they let him. I guess the studio let him go, and then they cast Chris O'Donnell, which sucks. I mean, like Marlon Wayans as Robin sounds great. I would be into it.
That would have been a wild artifact of history, though, man. What the hell?
Yeah, but like also that movie already is a weird artifact.
Yeah, sure.
Batman Forever and Batman and Robin are bizarre. Like, you know what I mean? And so like they're really weird movies. But they also like. The other thing that's kind of fucked up is that in the first two Batman movies with Burton, which this is technically a continuation of, there are characters and there are actors who continue from the first two, even though they changed out the Batman actors. But in the first two, they cast Billy D. Williams as Harvey Dent. And he was like, he signed on and he's in it and he was supposed to play Two-Face. So he was supposed to come in and be Two-Face. And then they didn't renew him for the third one. And they cast Tommy Lee Jones as, so they're just replacing a lot of black dudes to play these characters.
Damn.
And like, that's also a weird movie because like Tommy Lee Jones is like, it's him and Jim Carrey, and Tommy Lee is like trying to out Jim Carrey. It's bizarre. It's a bizarre movie. Yeah, it's weird stuff. I need to rewatch those. It's been a long time.
My roommate loves them shits.
How do we go on this tangent because of Black Robin in the Batwheels show?
Batwheels, man. And Black Robin and Batwheels. Fam, like when we turned it on, because it was just kind of like we just kind of were sitting there and we didn't have nothing to turn on. And I'm like, man, fuck it, I'm about to put on Batwheels. I didn't even know what it was. Do you know what Batwheels is?
It's the show that's about the Batmobile, right?
It's not just the Batmobile though, bro. Like it's like
is it all of his cars and like planes and shit?
It's all his cars. So there's a plane and then there's the Robin got a little car, and then Batgirl, she got a like a motorcycle, and then like in the first episode in the pilot, like Batman, Robin, and Batgirl like they get in trouble or something like that, and then like the Batcave is like, man, I'm about to like it's kind of like they kind of build it up to where Batman has had this like he had this like last thought in his head where it's like, all right, if I'm in trouble, send the cars to come get me. And then they just like give the cars life. Like they like all the cars are like people. They're like, whoa, I'm alive. What the fuck? And then when the shit get weird is like Joker and them cars are alive too, but I don't know how. Like there's no explanation of that. And I shouldn't even be watching this shit because it's like for 6-year-olds. But like it was so weird. Like it was wild, bro. Like
you're just like glued to your screen. Like what is this?
Fucking Batwheels. And then it's just I saw the little Robin. I'm like, oh shit. That's cool, man. These kids get to grow up with that Black Robin, boy.
But yeah, so Tuka and Birdie are dead. It sucks for now. Lisa Hanawalt basically went on record and said like she still has an ending in mind for the show, which means that obviously the season 3 finale was not the ending she had in mind.
Right.
I know they were working on planning a season 4 before everything got shut down. and she's hopeful that it could have new life somewhere else someday. I think Tornante owns the rights to that show and BoJack, which is like unusual for shows that start on Netflix. Usually Netflix owns them, which is why they were able to shop Tuka and Birdie around to another network. So I guess it just depends on however the contracts for Adult Swim worked out. But I think like logistically the show could be somewhere else, but I just don't know how likely it is. Like 2 cancellations and I don't know. It just seems tough. Like it seems like a really steep hill to climb, which sucks. Maybe she can continue in comic form since she does comics and stuff. But like I would really love just one last season, maybe one special like they're doing for Venture Bros and Metalocalypse and Aqua Teen. Who knows?
It's a reach, but it's not impossible, man. We seen crazier shit happen. Like we talking about one of the crazier things that happened today, actually. So like
that's true.
You know what I mean?
Coming
like
right up.
Futurama, Family Guy, like Fairly Odd Parents. Like we've seen it. It has happened.
It happens.
It
That's
does
true.
happen. Now, granted, those shows are more popular than Tuka and Birdie. But like I don't even think that means anything, bro. Like
right.
It took years, but Samurai Jack came back and got the finish.
And yeah, it's true. We're living in such a weird world right now where like all anyone is interested in is existing IP and rebooting and reviving things, which does not set us up well for the future when they realize, well, there's nothing else for us to fucking revive because we revived everything. And then no one made anything new in the last 15 years. Right. And so like, they're just like, I don't know. I don't even mean to like get on a soapbox and rant, but this all feels so related to like the way fandom has changed and like the way like I don't like hate on these movies, but the way the MCU has changed the industry, I think is like inarguably bad.
For sure. Like, but the thing is like that shit ain't their fault. It ain't their fault that them shits did that good and that like they had a plan. Like they just kind of wanted to do something cool and then like
yes, they did something different. It's not their fault, but it's this, the studios took the wrong lessons away, which is just that we should only be pursuing the biggest possible profit margin we can, which is like make these big movies that like everyone wants to go see. And that is so limiting to what film and media can be. If it's something that's just trying to broadly appeal to everybody, then you're missing out on so many little slices of the world and types of storytelling.
Because film is personal. Yeah,
exactly.
For sure. And like to think that like 10, 15 years ago, we lived in a world where a movie about a guy that talks to a teddy bear could gross $500 million. Like,
yeah,
that I will never be off that. Like, Ted grossed $500 million, and like we're still in this phase where like we're like, yeah, the only thing that sells is like, either like super heavy, and like not even though you could plant your foot in something and it could just not be a sure thing. Remember they did The Mummy with Tom Cruise?
Yeah, Tom Cruise Mummy. It's called Tom Cruise Mummy.
I seen that shit in theaters, bro. Like that shit kind of became nothing. Or like that movie that just came out, Amsterdam, with that crazy cast, wild.
Oh cast. Yeah, David O. Russell.
Fish.
But the Mummy is actually like the perfect example because that was them like really putting the cart before the horse. They were like, the Mummy is the beginning of the dark universe where we're going to bring in all of these monsters from Universal and they're all going to team up at some point in like a big movie. And everyone was like, you can't make Universal monsters the Avengers. Like,
right. What is the point that we're building up to? Because that's the thing is that like they lose sight of the fact that like most of, if not all of these like Marvel stories were like written already. Like they're from comics that everybody grew up with. And like, so who you're going to expect. Like, like sooner or later, this person is supposed to come and that person is supposed to come. Like, that's just kind of what it was. And like, that's also what kind of made it cool. And that's what like, it kind of got a lot of people into the comics because they started to care and they wanted to know who was going to show up next or whatever.
Right.
And I mean, I wanted to see the Dark Universe shit, but because I wanted to know what the fuck that even was. Like, what is this mess that y'all are trying to make? Like, that's why I wanted it. But you know,
they even like made their whole title for the Dark Universe. They really like called their shot. They were like, "This is the Dark Universe. This is it."
Why, bro?
Yeah. Do you remember when they released the trailer for that movie and they forgot to they accidentally muted a bunch of audio tracks, and all it was like just a specific sound design track, and that's it. It's so funny.
Shit.
I'll have to send you if you've never seen it.
Nah, I've seen it. I forgot about it though.
It's
like
so
you
funny.
just reminded me of that. Oh shit! I completely that shit was sick. Oh man, but that's telling, bro. I should have told them.
But I also think
what was gonna happen.
It's also kind of cool though. I feel like it's actually cool to watch it and as a to be studious of sound design, just to be to watch and just see the specific sound effects that they threw in underneath the other tracks and just be how many little things go into this. It's pretty interesting, even though it is fucking funny. It's also very
hilarious,
funny.
Man.
Yeah,
shit.
It's great. All right. Well, rest in peace, Tuka and Birdie. I hope I hope this is not the end for you. I think we're doing, as you probably know, Futurama right now. We're going to catch up on Futurama so that we're ready to go next year when new Futurama comes out. But I think what we're going to do is we'll probably do 2 Futuramas, season 6A, season 6B. Then we're probably going to take a break to cover Rick and Morty season 6, since that will have ended. Then we'll finish Futurama season 7A, season 7B. And then I think we'll cover Tuka and Birdie 3 episodes in a row. I made my bed and my dog is now getting under my covers, messing it all up. And with that, let's cue the theme song.
I've been watching them for years. It's always been something that fit with all the animated characters that's doing their own bits. With a fry who's in the future and a family guy that sucks. With a father from a hill, a burger family runs them up. The show inspires is the same guy, except he totally safe. And diverse.
Let's watch cartoons that curse.
Yeah, that's bananas.
As rough.
What the is up, everybody? Welcome to Cartoons That Curse, the podcast about adult animated series, aka cartoons that say swear words. I am your host, Johnny. I am with my co-host, Tariq. How you doing, Tariq?
I'm all right. Man, I had something in my head. It was I don't remember. Somebody asked Bender how he was once, and he said something, and I was trying to remember what it was, and I can't remember anymore.
Wait, someone asked Bender what?
Somebody asked Bender how he was once, how did he feel? And he said something that I wanted to say, and then I forgot.
And you forgot what it was. Bender had some good lines this season that I wrote down. He always does. Does. So as you probably know, today we are here. We're kind of getting back to our roots here on Cartoons That Curse. We're talking about Futurama, which is the first miniseries we ever did. We covered Futurama, the Fox years, seasons 1 through 4. Then we did take a break, but we eventually covered all 4 movies and individual episodes from season 5, as I'll call it. If you're watching on Hulu, it's listed as season 6. We're going to get over. We'll talk about those confusing aspects of the season numbers. But we'll also make sure to put a tweet out and a community post out to warn you which episodes we are covering that might be listed differently on Hulu. As we are referring to it, we're referring to it as Futurama season 6A, which is because they did 2 production seasons in Comedy Central's run, both of 26 episodes, but they aired 13 a year. We are not going to talk about 26 episodes at once. We just aren't. So we're going to list them as separate episodes. We're doing Futurama 6A, Futurama season 6B, and then 7A, 7B, and then we'll be all caught up. And it'll be the same thing for Hulu because they did 20 episode orders and they're going to be 10 a year. So we'll be doing, when that comes out, it'll be season 8A, even though for you guys on Hulu, it'll probably be listed as 11? Season 11 or something. Yeah.
Fuck. I'll never forget, man. I was watching Futurama on Netflix with an ex-girlfriend, and then like she pulled it up, and I was like, Futurama doesn't have fucking 10 seasons. I got like instantly mad, and that's how I found out all about all of this shit.
What weirds me out about it is that they the crew went to great lengths to make sure the show was released on DVD in the proper order, in the proper sets. So they're labeled Volume 1, Volume 2, but it is Production Season 1, Production Season 2, Production Season 3, Production Season 4. Those 4 production seasons were split over five broadcast seasons on Fox. And I'm just like, I don't know. It's just weird that they don't put them in that order on streaming services. Like, I know King of the Hill, like they put To Sirloin with Love at the proper place, even though it aired out of order. Like,
did they really? Because
I'm pretty sure on Hulu it's at the end.
Last time I checked, it was fucked up, and then I felt really bad.
Really,
about
maybe
that.
I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong.
I remember.
I don't know. It's just like I mean, I guess ultimately it's fine, but it is like very confusing when we want to talk about the show. We could have gone in broadcast order, I guess, but like I wanted to talk about them in the order they were made.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so, and like I guess other shows we don't worry about that. Like The Simpsons is aired in all kinds of crazy orders. There's a lot of holdovers every time, and so we don't really stress about it there. But
they've never, at the same time though, like The Simpsons has never been a show where they've cared to tell us what the actual order is too. You know what
exactly.
I mean? Like, and with Futurama, it just got like, I remember especially like the last episodes we were doing, like I remember like Dwight, for example, like he just kind of like shows up in like Tales of Interest or some shit like that.
And he shows up in Leela's Wizard of Oz dream.
Yep. Yeah.
And he had no words, no dialogue, except for like singing with the chorus. And like that was our first time we ever saw Dwight. To
Sirloin with Love is in the wrong spot. I'm looking at it now.
Wow, unbelievable.
Man,
Guy,
Hulu, and
I know
that makes me feel so fucking bad
platform.
too, because like I know that there's people that are experiencing King of the Hill for the first time, and they just see this fucking random ass episode as the finale.
That's what happened to me. I watched it on Netflix. I had grown up a King of the Hill fan, but I didn't binge the whole show until it was on Netflix. And I was like, I think I was in or right after college when I was like, all right, I'm going to watch through all of this show. And I had seen tons of it, but I remember getting to that episode and the ending happening and just immediately being like, that's the series finale. Like, there's no way that's not the series finale based on the way this ends. And then I looked and there were 4 more episodes, and I immediately looked it up and saw what happened. But that was so infuriating to me. I don't remember much about those last 4 episodes because it like made me mad.
Yeah.
I was like, how am I supposed to watch more after that? How am I supposed to watch more?
I don't think I've seen them. Like, that's how like against it I was. Like when they started the air on Adult Swim. Like I remember like I was a kid when that happened, but I remember like being really upset, and I just was like, I'm not gonna fuck with it. Like I don't care if they're like new. I don't care.
Right. But like obviously it seems like the Futurama crew at least had to have a degree of control over what order Fox aired in, because there are important plot points that are hit and then things change after that. So like at the very least, Fox was amenable to that kind of stuff. But obviously it seems like they just wanted to stretch out those 4 seasons to have an additional year of content, basically, which is what they did. So they had a 5th, and then, they do that a lot. They do that with Bob's. They do that with Bob's in particular was egregious, the way they did it. But
yeah, I couldn't believe that shit when you told me.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, they fucked Bob's up.
So let's talk about this revival season. So this, obviously, the history of Futurama is that the first 5 broadcast seasons, first 4 production seasons, they air on Fox. They end, I believe the last episode ends in like 03, maybe 04.
I think it's
let's look. I think you're right. 2003, August 2003 was the Devil's Hands Are Idle Playthings. So it was summer 2003 was the last aired episode.
That was almost 20 years ago. Oh man, next year that's gonna be 20
I know.
Years ago.
We're coming up on 20 years. And in addition to that, the crew had been done like at that point for probably a year. Like they probably stopped working on it in 2002. I mean, they were still obviously animating, but like they were probably done with this stuff for a long time before. And then the show was eventually, due to good DVD sales, because of its success on Adult Swim, because Family Guy had a revival in the works,
Right.
Futurama was, rather than renewing it for more seasons, they went into Fox and they were able to pitch and sell them on 4 straight to DVD movies, which is effectively just one production season. They did 16 episodes worth of content. And those both released on DVD, and then they cut them into 4 episodes apiece, and they aired them on Comedy Central as episodes, which, if you're watching on Hulu, that is the only way to watch those movies on Hulu right now, is split into episodes. So I've had a lot of people in my comments when I talk about those movies be like, I didn't know these were movies. I thought they were just a serialized season where they actually like all connect. Just 4 episodes connect. Yeah, which is interesting. Like I would have been curious to have watched them for the first time that way. So the final movie airs or comes out August 30th, 2009, which is like almost 6 years, almost 6 years to the day after the first finale. Wow, that's crazy. Actually, let me look at that. What was it? August 10th. So like with almost 6 years exactly later, they did another series finale in Into the Wild Green Yonder. And then seasons, basically what happened is that the show did well on Comedy Central, and they started talking with Comedy Central about renewing the show in proper to have new episodes. So there's a lot that happened at this point. So they start negotiating. They have to negotiate with Fox because Fox owns the rights, and they have to negotiate with Comedy Central to distribute it and all of that. And so they did pick up the show for 26 new half-hour episodes. And they announced it. They actually announced it before the Into the Wild Green Yonder aired, I think. I think they announced it in June 2009. So a couple months before Into the Wild Green Yonder aired. And they were going to begin airing June 24th, 2010. So they had to reduce the number of staff writers. That was one thing. And then there was also, I don't know if you remember the big voice actor dispute, much like we just had recently with the additional renewal. There was some unfounded claims that, like, allegedly Fox was not going to pay the voice actors as much. There were rumors that they were demanding a certain amount per episode, and that voice actors like, we're not asking for that much, just like a reasonable amount. And Fox actually put out a call for auditions to replace everyone, which is insane.
Sick world.
Yeah. Genuinely insane. And luckily they all came to an agreement. Everyone came back. Deal was struck just within a couple months, like at end of July 2009. So even before the last movie came out, they were all on board. And then in June 2010 is when these episodes started airing. So it's crazy, such a long road for this show. So like, I mean, we're talking, when did the first episode of this show air? It was like late 2000 or late 1999, right? November 1999 was when the first, that's season 2. March 1999. March 1999 is when season one started airing, which is nuts. And so now we are 11 years later, and they're just finally starting to air season 6. Like that many years later. It's just such a long road for this show. I do think that the reduced number of writers probably has to do with the way I feel about these seasons being a little lower in quality than the stuff before.
That was poetically worded.
There are still so many episodes in this revival run that I love, and there's very few episodes that there's not many episodes where there's nothing about this I like. Where I'm sitting there worst episode ever. There are still funny things, good things in there, but there are occasionally ones where I'm like, nope, didn't do it for me. And this, so this is the first time you've rewatched this season in a long time, right?
Since they aired, bro.
Since they aired, you didn't even revisit this shit. So I imagine you probably feel more positively about it now than you did then, because you were kind of a little hater back then, huh?
Yeah, I was a little shit. Well, so I have a lot of the same emotions for certain ones, and for other ones, like I got like I fuck with them way more. Particularly, cool. Actually, and the sickest thing about it, I think, is that like the ones that like I've turned around on are like, I'm looking at my ranking. The ones that I turned around on are like my top 2. Like, so,
interesting.
It is growth. It's cool to look back at these, because some of these, I feel like I might have seen all of these. If not, I've seen like a fraction of some, at the very least.
Yeah.
Like some imagery is like familiar and stuff like that. Some I remember way more than others. But as far as like sitting down and watching these again, this is the first time since they aired, for sure.
I'm glad we're doing it, because honestly, I'm very excited to talk to you about them from that perspective, because you're someone who loves this show so much, but also isn't as intimately familiar with these episodes as I am. Right, whereas like previously when we were going through it, you were pretty familiar with everything, except for, I guess, in the movies, we got into that territory a little bit. Like you had never really seen Bender's Game, right?
Right. Yeah. Bender's Game. Yeah. I think that might be the only one, because I remember like Into the Wild Green Yonder and I guess Bender's Game was only one. Yeah. And I ran Bender's Big Score back like it was nothing.
Yeah, because it's fucking great. I love Bender's Big Score so much. That's why so great.
We were just talking about how like some people experience those as like serialized seasons. I think that fucks up Bender's Big Score, bro. Like I don't think you should watch it like that. I think it has to be a movie. I think it got to be a movie.
I always think about like the Lars thing and how that might have felt if it were episodic, where it was a multiple episode like reveal. You know what I mean? You got him for all these episodes. You're like, what's with this Lars guy? And then like the big reveal. Although I was maybe too young and dumb to like realize who he was when it aired. I feel like a lot of fans were like, "That's Fry." That's Fry.
I don't know, man. It did a good job to me.
So, all right, well, let's just jump into these episodes. So this first one, I do want to talk about one thing. So the opening of this is a Hypnotoad intro, which remind me, what is, so like, I know there are actually two alts. There's an alt for this Hypnotoad intro. There's one that, what does it say? Oh, what does he even say in this one? I know one of them is like Bender being like, I think the one that aired on TV is Bender, unless I'm mistaken. Just let me know if this is actually the one that aired on Hulu. Originally, Bender says something like, you'll not even remember that Futurama was canceled by idiots and then brought back by even bigger idiots.
He doesn't say that on Hulu.
Okay, so I think when the show aired for the first time, that was what it did. And then when it came out on DVD and they aired it afterwards, it was whatever this was, where he's just like, like you'll be watching whatever stupid thing comes up next. Coming up next, Futurama.
Yeah. That's what. So
that's kind of a funny piece of history, is that there's just an alt Hypnotoad intro to this episode that aired on TV versus the one that is here on the DVDs and on Hulu. I think a lot of this episode's problems to me stem from them trying to get out of the cliffhanger from Into the Wild Green Yonder.
They stumble out of that shit, bro. Like it's
agreed,
man.
I agree. And like it's pretty sweaty. Like the way, like the whole episode I would describe as sweaty, because you've got them having to go back.
When you sent me that text earlier and described it as sweaty, I've never heard somebody call an episode sweaty before, but I knew what you meant.
Dude, it's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite terms. It's like I stole it from my podcast I talk about a lot. Blank Check. They use that term a lot, and it's just like a way to describe like how an episode or a movie is working really hard to convey something to you, like working so hard that you can see it sweating. You know what I mean? Like this is sweaty. This is really sweaty. And like, so it opens up with just like Fry coming to the professor. He's all jacked up. His fry froze all frizzy. And then he's like, what happened? And then they have to go back and they show the events of the end of Into the Wild Green Yonder. They show then what happens after that, which is like they crash into the into the Planet Express building, and then now the whole episode is about Farnsworth like rebirthing them with this like stem cell tub or whatever. And like, to one degree, I'm like, okay, on paper, I get this. Like, you want to follow up the cliffhanger without just ignoring it. Two, the show is literally reborn. Like, you want to do a sci-fi reborn like storyline. They have been reborn into this world. This is Rebirth. But it just feels like it has to do so much work to get us to that point.
Yeah, no, I'm not because like I said, like part of this, like, I want to just kind of accept it as like, okay, this is just a fun, weird sci-fi premise. Like, part of me really just wants to accept it like that, especially all of the stuff that they end up doing later in the episode too. Like, part of me really wants to accept it's just like dumb sci-fi fun shit. But I don't know. And it's an issue I have with like most of this season is that like, and most of like what I remember from the Comedy Central run is like, they are very comfortable, like lack of a better term, like fucking the characters up. And like, I don't like that. Like, I like feeling as though these are like humans, you know what I mean? Like actual people.
I felt that way about a handful of episodes in this first like chunk. It felt like they were really getting their feet back under them on writing these characters. Cause I know like the way they wrote the movies was very different. They arranged, they had like a small writer's room of a few of the writers. They broke the stories, and then a different writer went out and wrote each of those movies. So you've kind of got one voice for each movie. Those didn't feel like they had any real character issues like these first few episodes.
Yeah, for sure. And even like, I guess like the kind of shit I'm talking about too is like, there's one later, I think, where like, I don't remember what is happening. I just remember that Fry and Leela like rush out to hold hands and their fucking arms rip off. And I hated that as a kid. I fucking hated that.
That's coming up in the next set of episodes, I believe. No, that's gonna be the beginning of 8 or 7A and 7B.
Okay,
that's an episode which is, I think, a great episode title: "A Farewell to Arms." I won you over now.
It is funny. I just remember hating that shit as a kid because I was like, you can't just fucking rip their arms off. They're people. Like, but
like Futurama does weird shit like that all the time. I feel like that's a little. That's to me more forgivable than some character shit they do.
Yeah.
I agree. So I don't know. I do feel like they struggle a bit. This episode, maybe not as much. This episode feels okay. But I feel like Inagata Dalila, Prop Infinity in particular are two
for
ones
sure.
Where I'm like, oh, what are you guys doing with these characters? Like, this doesn't feel like something these characters would do. It makes me dislike when they do things for the sake of the story that make me dislike a character. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And this one I just think is just like a sweaty re-entry back into Futurama. Like, it feels like they were working really hard to get there. And then it felt like they needed to have this big twist, and the twist is like a double twist. And like the twist itself is a lot. Like, it's just, none of it works like I want it to.
Especially all the robot shit. I hated it.
Here's the thing. I don't like the twist itself. I do like some of the moments that come from it. Like, I kind of like that there's Robo, Fry, and Leela out there somewhere just living together. Like, that's like how big their love is that like even the robot versions of themselves are just out living together somewhere. I liked the moments. Like, there's the line at the end where he goes, I've waited for you for 1,000 years. I can wait a little longer. Even though I don't like that in the context of the show, because I'm just like, just put them together already. You've just had them admit their love for each other in the last thing. Like, just do it already. Yeah. But I do like, it's a nice scene, a nice moment, a nice sentiment. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to be fucking mad if they do that in the next revival.
That's going to stink on ice. That would fucking stink on ice.
we'll talk about the potential there in a minute too, because I think there's a lot we can talk about in regards to Rebirth and the new season. But let's talk about even though this episode like goes a lot of places that I think are just kind of mediocre and sweaty. Like I don't care about the Cyclops monster stuff. Like there's just so many twists and turns. They did show it when it leaves. It sticks its tongue out onto the ship and then it gets yanked. So we do see it like go with it, but it's like it is just so funny that it's just like I don't know. They wanted that moment where Bender saves the day by stopping partying or whatever.
Bender is the fucking worst this entire episode. I can't do it.
Well, I do think that's kind of I do. There are some really good Bender episodes in the revivals, but I do think, for lack of a better term, he gets a little flanderized. We could call him Benderized even. He is. There are episodes that really latch on to the things that were nuanced about him in the first run, but he became such a mascot for Futurama over the course of its original run, like to the point where like when the show comes back, like two of them have Bender's name in it. Bender's big face is like over the very first movie, which is like Bender's like a big part of the plot, but like not the primary part of the plot. You know what I mean?
Into like a minion. Yeah,
right. Bender's like big score, like Bender does get a big score in that movie, but the movie is about Fry and Lars and Leela. Like it's really about them. So yeah, there are issues with characters in these revival seasons, but it's not like entirely lost. They do a good job with them in other episodes too. So, but let's talk about some things we like and laughed at in this episode, because there are good jokes in this episode. I laugh really hard every time at when the professor is telling him how everyone else got killed, but he survived, and he goes, "And I survived with only trivia or brain damage." He just like can't say it.
I was gonna say that. That was funny. I like that. I like that a lot. That was hilarious.
It's great line.
I love when like a human Fry at the end of the episode, he comes out and he looks up and he sees the robot Fry and he says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot I was already here." Like,
that's great. I love that line. I wrote that too. I also like. This is a thing that they did in Bender's Big Score, and that they've made a point to say in commentaries that they do is like when a character meets themselves, they tend to not get along. And so there's this moment where like I think Robot Fry says something to regular Fry, and Fry just goes, "Okay, dork." He just calls himself a dork, which I think is really funny. But that's like in Bender's Big Score when Fry meets himself to get the warmer pizza. He goes back in time to have warmer pizza. He just like argues with himself. He's like, "What are you doing? Like, what the hell are you doing?"
That's like Farnsworth Paradox. What's the name of that episode?
The Farnsworth Parabox. Yes,
there it is.
Great episode.
Exactly like that. Everybody hates
himself.
Except Bender, actually.
And Zoidberg, yeah. No, there's like Bender is such a narcissist that like it makes sense that he would love himself.
Right,
But like for like the Amy's don't get along. Like, there's
even the Benders start to argue though, because they're doing like they play like King at one point, and he's like, "All right." I mean, the Zoidbergs, they start to arguing like
that's
they
true.
play like King for a little bit. And was like, "All right, it's my turn."
Let's see. I like when Leela realizes she's a robot and she's talking to Fry at the bar, and she's just like, can a robot really be am I really a person, or can a machine of a sufficient complexity legitimately achieve consciousness? And Fry just goes, "I agree." like they're just showing that like clearly Robot Leela is smarter than well, I guess it was Robot Fry, but at the time we thought it was real Fry. I like when regular Leela comes back to life and realizes that Fry has made this robot version of her and is like, "How could you?" And Fry just goes, "Coma. Sad." He just like can't speak. I really like that line. Actually, I think my biggest laugh of the episode is the idea that they've achieved the idea that they're regathering their personalities from security tapes. My favorite is that they used the urinal tapes for Fry, and you just Fry's just peeing alone, and he just yells out loud, "I sure do love Leela."
Then
That's really funny.
After he comes out the goop, he's like, "All right, I'm about to go to the urinal and talk about myself."
Yeah, that's right. That was great. That was great. And then I liked at the end when they like rip off their skins and are just like these different robots than the ones we even saw before. And they're like, why did their voices change? The professor says, that's the one thing we'll never truly understand. And then I also just laughed at them calling themselves out about how sweaty this episode was, because like they're like, when Fry and Leela are talking at the end, Leela's like, I lost track around the second robot. Yeah. Really get it. Yeah, there's some funny stuff in this.
So, all right, one of my notes is in all caps, and it says, "Why did bro cut off the hammer?" Because Zoidberg cuts off Hermes' dick. So let me cut your umbilical cord. And
that's right, man. Hermes has bad luck with bodies. Like looking back at Bender's big score, your tail is wagging.
That's the second time Zoidberg has cut a dick off.
Yes, that happens in, I think that's right.
Put your head on my shoulders.
Fridays I think you're right.
He's like, I couldn't find your dorsal fin. So can I live without it? It's like, you call that living.
You call that living. Oh man. Cool. I do like overall. I do laugh a good amount at some of these jokes. The episode premise itself bothers me more than anything. Like it just feels like it does too much, but it has nice moments at the end and it does make me laugh. I don't hate it. I don't love it. I don't hate it.
Right.
And so, yeah, I do hope they look at this episode and examine it when they're re-entering the new season. So like, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that the first episode back is called The Impossible Stream for the Hulu run. And I anticipate that this is going to act similarly to Rebirth, and that it is going to follow up the end of the last thing and reintroduce us to the Futurama scenario. And so,
but they don't have to like, but there's not a lot of legwork that they have to do, right? Because Meanwhile, it just kind of goes like, all right, well, we're gonna forget everything and we'll just do it all again. Like,
they really could just start a new episode, and that could be that. And that might be what they do. I almost prefer that. But I do maybe anticipate, because of the title, The Impossible Stream, which I think could mean two things. One, I think it could be referencing the time stream that like the professor went through to save them.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
So like, and then also it's referencing that now the show is streaming on Hulu. Right. You know what I mean? In the same way that Rebirth is like, oh, we're back on Comedy Central. They even had that joke at the beginning where they're like, it was the Panama wormhole, their central channel for shipping. It's sweaty joke. Sweaty joke.
But I think it's a good, because you were talking about the movies and how the movies are written. I think it's a perfect compare and contrast. Look how sweaty that joke is, but look how fucking great the original joke is, where they're like the idiots at the box network and like the fucking light is flashing and it's like,
yeah, that's right.
It's just such a better joke.
So funny. Yeah. It is better.
And then Leela says like, what does this mean about us and our millions of fans? And there's just fucking behind it. It's so funny.
It means we're back on the air, flying on the air.
We're back on the air. It's funny. I'll think that's just funny.
It's dumb. It's like just as dumb, but much funnier.
Right.
in my opinion. So yeah, I'm hopeful that when they come back on Hulu, this is also weird because this is the first time we're talking about Futurama since the announcement of new episodes. So that's weird. Like that's a weird now, like now we aren't talking about it as a thing that's complete. We're also talking about the potential what's coming next, which is not a headspace I've been in for 10, 12, 13 years. Like,
man, do you think, we gonna move on, but like, do you think they gonna bring back? They got to, right? Zoidberg Shorty.
I hope so. I don't know if they can afford Emilia Clarke, but who played the character. But I really hope they do. She doesn't need to be in every episode, but like in the same way that when they eventually introduced LaBarbara and Dwight, and they just would recur every so often. I would really love it if we got Marianne, because I don't know. It's just like, first of all, there's also other things that we'll talk about here that they do in this season that do change the status quo of the show, and not ways that like change the show overtly, but they are just like changes to character dynamics and world dynamics. So we'll talk about them as they come up, but like there's no reason that can't be one of them. To me, there's no reason that can't be one of them.
They get I guess they get away with Dwight because Dwight is just Phil Lamar again.
But, right, of course. Well, you can. I mean, like, I would love it if they got Emilia Clarke back if she was if she was down to be a guest star every so often. But she's in much higher demand than she was back then. Okay, I want to do one thing. I forgot we were going to do this. So this was the season of Futurama that I was like unendingly excited for its return, and I was like all in when it was airing, and I was going on the website gotfuturama.com, which has its own little episode review section where all the fans can review the episodes out of 5 and give a short little review. So I was 20 years old when this was happening. I was a kid. I was basically a kid. loved Futurama. And I've gathered all of my reviews for this set of episodes. So I want to read them after each one, and we can see how my opinion has changed. So
let's hear it.
I gave Rebirth 4 out of 5.
Whoa.
I also think if there were like, you couldn't do halves. So I think I was generous to a lot of things. Like I maybe would have given this a 3.5, 3, like, but I also like was just so excited for the show to be back. I think almost all of these outside of a few that deserved it are elevated. Although there's a couple that I'm like, oh no, bump that up, bump that one down. So here's what I said was it July 23rd or no, sorry, June 23rd, 2010, unless, oh no, I think I must have reviewed this a year later or a month later. While it didn't feel 100% like old Futurama, it definitely made me laugh and think. It definitely made me laugh and think like Futurama always had. I really enjoyed the twist. So clearly not how I feel now. I did not enjoy the twist. I do not enjoy that twist anymore. There's aspects of the twist I enjoy. It did make me laugh. It made me think a little bit about like robot sentience and all that kind of stuff. But no, I would say this is not how I feel anymore. I would probably give this 3 out of 5. I'd probably give it a 3 out of 5 now.
I think that's fair.
And I do not enjoy the twist. No, not anymore.
Yeah, nah. I remember as a kid, I remember feeling like it was. I didn't have like too much like analytical abilities back then, but I just remember being like, this is different. Whatever this is, it's not the same thing. Like I remember feeling like that.
Well, I mean, clearly I did even say that though. It didn't feel 100% like old Futurama. So like clearly I was feeling that too. But you know what? Like I think I'm in a healthier headspace with that now. Like I'm not going into the Hulu episodes expecting it necessarily to feel like classic Futurama or even like, you know what I mean? Like I think you have to kind of have to keep in mind, like times have changed. Everything's changed. Like, the writers have changed. The show's going to be different. Like it's not going to be exactly the same. So I'm curious to see where we at. All right. Should we move on to 602?
Let's do it. These came out the same day, right?
They did come out the same day. They aired on the same day. 2-episode premiere. 602 is called Inagata Dalila. I remember at the time, you know what? I'm going to read my review for this one up top so I can talk through my differences. So I said, overall, this episode was just okay, but had some really great elements to it. I loved everything Zapp Brannigan. I gave it 3 out of 5. I would say that's more or less how I still feel. I do think this is a funny episode.
It is. Yes, it's really funny. I like it.
Yeah.
It's funny.
And rewatching, I've been like, rewatching it, I was like, there's more good comedy in this than I gave it credit for. But there are some good jokes. I think my biggest issue, and it's not even an in-universe perspective, because like the scenario that is laid before them where like Leela and Zap are forced to like consummate their marriage to save the human race or whatever, like you can't like count that against Leela as a person, which I think a lot of fans did, where they're just like, well, I can't believe Leela would do that to Fry. I'm like, well, she's saving the human race, like, first of all. Yeah. But I think from a writing perspective, it was very foolish for them to do an episode 2 episodes after you have this big, massive moment where Fry and Leela confess their love for one another finally, to be like, and like now Leela is sleeping with Zap again. You know what I mean? Like Leela and Zap are sleeping together again.
There's that. And I think really, like, I think all it needed was like, and maybe I could have missed it, but like, I feel like all it needed was just like Leela saying one line, like, what about Fry? Like, I think it would have benefited just literally from that. Yeah. And then they could have did exactly what they did, but you know.
That's one of my big problems with the season, the revival seasons until later. It feels like they are trying to have their cake and eat it too, where they're like, Fry and Leela are kind of a thing now, but also we still want to be able to use Leela like in the ways that we did before, and Fry in the ways that we did before with their same dynamic. And like, we want to be able to have Leela have this like tension with Zap in these funny ways, which also comes back in an episode in a couple seasons that makes me even angrier. Cause like Leela goes far off the deep end, where I'm just like, this is like, you're really messing with Leela's character in this one. But that being said, this is a funny episode. There's some really great jokes. Zap Brannigan heavy, which is funny. Like Zap is always funny. I liked the like black and white sequences that were like the transcredible exploits of Zap Brannigan. I thought those were funny ways to frame the episode. There are some really good jokes. I just like that there's a secret underground White House. That's funny. And then when Nixon is talking about the death sphere that's going around censoring things, he goes, it erased that planet like 18 minutes of incriminating tape, which is a perfect Nixon joke. A perfect Nixon joke. It's so funny.
That's good. I like there's a lot of fucking funny jokes in this one. I like when they're like, what do we do now? And then Amy suggests the orgy. And everybody's like for it and then against it like ASAP. Like they're like, nah. Like that shit is hilarious. I like that. I like that they go to the Fry's like, I thought this was the public library. This is not a pubic library. That's right. That's dumb. I like that.
I like where they're talking about like no one's thinking about like how we're feeling or my feelings, and then Bender goes, I haven't felt much of anything since my guinea pig died.
Yeah, I got that too.
Such a good joke. Funny. Also, just great funny. DiMaggio delivery, really great. So funny. But like so I do think the end, like Zap revealing everything, it's like, I don't know, the way that it's all like every single step was revealed to be like a ruse. It feels like, again, like a little sweaty. Like it feels like, all right, everything, every single thing. That being said, the way Zap increasingly makes funnier crying noises every time. They're so funny.
It is funny. It is
so funny. They make me laugh every single time. Yeah. So this is, again, like this is an episode that I think back then, this was like my least favorite of the season. I think now it is
where they put it.
I think that's right. I think that is true. It has moved up my list significantly since then. But honestly, even my list now is like different than my Futurama. It's a little different than my Futurama ranking list that I did. Like my every episode ranked. I looked and compared, and I was like, very close, a few differences. Okay. But that's just how, I don't know. That's just how things change in your brain, right?
This season has it starts in this episode, and it happens a few other times where like they'll make like timely references to now, and
yes, CSI Miami.
I didn't like that.
I know.
I didn't like that.
I think that joke would have been funnier if it were like CSI space something name.
Just
you know what
make
I mean?
it up.
Yeah.
Just make it the fuck. There's a where is it? I think it's in the Proposition Infinity. Yeah, where like Kip suggests that they watch Rachel Ray, and I'm like, they have a chef. Like, there's a chef character in the show. Why did y'all do that?
Or just like make a new one if you want it to be more Rachel Ray style. Like make someone up. It doesn't have to be Rachel Ray.
Exactly.
Although they do have the heads in jars thing, so I'm sure she would have been a head in a jar. Like,
yeah.
The only sorry, go ahead.
No, there's one more in this episode. I forgot about it because I think I got like it got an audible reaction out of me. It was Hermes listening to an iPod. I couldn't stand that. It bothered the shit out of me. Yeah, like those wire headphones.
They always,
stop.
but they always do that. Like, there's paper in the future still. Like you know what I mean? Pencils. Like, that's not gonna be in 1,000 years. We're gonna be using anything. We're gonna be using pencils and paper all the time. Like, I don't think so.
I don't know. We might go back. We might
go back. We have
that
to
joke
go back.
That joke in Lethal Inspection where Hermes is like, they got phones and booths now. Shit, I don't need the cell phone.
It's a great joke. It's a great joke. I will say my one like little defense of the CSI Miami joke is that those shows do never die. And so so you know, maybe you could argue,
but that's why I like
that
the Simpsons
CSI Miami is still on. Right.
That's why I like the Simpsons one from later where it's like when are you gonna make another Simpsons movie?
Yes,
it's like it's been 1,000 years and there still isn't another.
They still haven't done it. It's really funny. All right, you got anything else about Inagata Dalila?
Let me look. Nah, looks like I'm good.
Cool. Let's move it along. We're going to do 603 Attack the Killer App, which is an episode that we have talked shit about many times on this podcast. Let me read my bad review for this from 10 years ago, 12 years ago. While it felt a little more topical than most Futurama, the gags were hilarious, and I really enjoyed their take on the future iPhone.
Whoa.
I do still enjoy their take on the future iPhone. I do like the phone. Mm-hmm. It is definitely more topical.
Yeah.
And I think some gags in the first act are hilarious, and the rest upset me deeply.
I do have a gag in the first act that I really like.
What is it? What you got?
Oh, you got okay. It's when they finally get to the front of the line, the professor's like, "Oh no, the light! I guess I'm going to hell."
I like that. I laughed when they got to like the garbage planet, and they're just like using all the kids, and they're like, "Do the kids do all the labor?" And he goes, "Not the whipping." that's pretty brutal. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I also think like, I laughed when Fry said, "Oh, these iPhones are phones too." Like that was pretty funny. Also, this is actually funny to bring up because you just brought up that cell phone joke later. It's funny that they just don't have the iPhones after this episode. They don't, like, Hermes throws out his regular cell phone after this episode. Phone, yeah, it's funny. But yeah, I don't know. I was surprised. Oh, I think my favorite joke in the episode is when they're doing the mom commercial for the iPhones. And she goes, "Here, just read this at unbiasedreviews.mom," which is just a great URL. Very funny. The webisode of Hypnotone predicted TikTok. Good handful of years before TikTok became a thing.
Nice.
There's very short content.
Nice. Oh, what was that? Just a Vine parody?
Fair. Well, Vine wasn't even around yet. I don't.
Was it not? Okay. My
this came out in 2010. Yeah. I don't know.
Oh yeah, and then yeah. Fuck that. Yeah.
I don't, and I also don't even hate the premise of them wanting to do a contest to go see who goes more viral or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, don't even hate that idea.
I don't think this is bad internet commentary. Like,
yeah,
as far as like
followers and the shit you would do for it and like the clout and all that shit. Like I don't think this is like a horrible internet commentary at all.
I don't think so either. What the back half of the episode though is so focused on like the gross out stuff with the like the goat that pukes.
The goat, yeah.
I hate the goat. I hate the puking. And I just cannot explain how much I hate the Susan Boyle thing. Like it's just not even to make because it's just like this singer who was a phenomenon back then. So it's super topical. That's like the most topical thing about this is even beyond the iPhones is Susan Boyle being utilized so heavily here. Right. And then also just like, it's not even a good joke making her an actual Boyle. It's not funny. And also like a waste of Craig Ferguson doing the voice of
fucking Craig Ferguson.
Waste.
Get the fuck out of here.
It makes me mad.
What?
Yeah, I just don't like this episode very much. And it sucks. It's written by Patrick Verone, who's a great writer. He's written a lot of great, excellent Futurama episodes. That stuff, it just makes me mad. It's not funny. It's very gross. And then also just like it does some character stuff at the end that I don't love. I hate that after Leela gets outed, like Fry goes viral for sending out the video of Susan Boyle or whatever. And at the end, Leela like thanks Fry. It's like, thanks, now I'm free or whatever. I'm like, that's a bad lesson. That's a bad lesson. He like really invaded her privacy in like a huge way. And for her to come back and be like, it was all a good thing. Fuck that. I hate that a lot.
I actually hated. One of my notes says, "Oh no, why would Fry do that?" Because I didn't like that Fry did it.
I know.
I like how they clean it up. Yeah, I guess, but I didn't like that Fry did it.
I do like that Fry feels so bad about it, even after Leela thanks him, that he's like, "Well, I have to do this. Like, I have to do this." I think that's good and fine. But man, overall, just painfully unfunny pun with the Susan Boyle thing. Don't like the puke or the goats. This one bums me out. If I were to rank it, I would give it a 2, maybe a 1 out of 5.
Nice.
2 or 1 out of 5. It's really low. I don't like it at all. Not a fan. All right. Move on to Prop Infinity.
Let's do it.
604. All right, here's my review back in the day. This is another one that was a bit more topical than before, but still quite entertaining. Robosexuality had often been joked about in passing in Futurama. I was happy to see it as a theme, which is still true. I do like that they talk about that more openly. I kind of don't love. I don't know. That's kind of the thing with some of these things that were made back in this era. Is they're like, this is clearly commentary on Proposition 8, which was a thing back in the day here in California, and gay marriage. Like it's clearly a parallel to the gay marriage thing. And it is funny how back in the day, something like this would feel very like bold and progressive. And like they're doing like, they're really standing out and doing the right thing. And now you look back and you're just like, it feels so dated. You know what I mean? Like you're just like, it's, and I think that's just something you can't escape from.
Cause it's, I guess like as time goes on, at least for me personally, like I'm just starting out to like the substitution thing. You know what I mean? Like if you want to talk about gay marriage, you could do that with 2 gay characters. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of how I felt like now, like that's kind of how I feel now about Zootopia. Where it's like, okay, let's talk about like all this race shit, and then like let's make the minorities the predators. Like you know what I mean? Like
does not age very well, does it?
Yeah.
I agree. I guess with Futurama, they've always sort of done that though, where there is some kind of a future parallel to what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So I understand the inclination to do it. But yeah, you're kind of right. It's just like, just say what you want to say about, but also like, I feel like it's a bolder statement and probably something they should have explored sooner, is just like, just make it clear that in the year 3010, gay marriage is just like widely accepted. Like, just make that clear. You know what I mean?
They kind of do, and that's why they cleaned it up for me in that scene where like Bender and Amy are talking to the crowd, and they kind of like distinctly differentiate robosexuality from homosexuality. Like,
right.
Because they're saying like, okay, all of this has been cool for mad long, but they don't fuck with us. Like, and I was like, okay, they cleaned that up. Like,
yes, for sure.
Me. Yeah.
That's true. That's a good point. I think my biggest issue with this episode, I don't hate this episode, but it really feels like they make Amy super unlikable in the way she treats Kif in the top part of the episode. Like, not to say that like Kif is pretty pathetic in this episode, but like the way she is just like so neglectful of his feelings in every way. And I don't feel like I ever saw that ever before with this couple. Like, you know what I mean?
I don't
like,
got Amy down for that. Yeah.
It feels so out of nowhere, which is, I think, my biggest issue. And it's like kind of the issue we're talking about, where it feels like some of these characterizations are just not quite matching up with what we're used to. I know like a lot of people like to talk about how in Beast with a Billion Backs, Amy slept with Zap, and like that's so unforgivable. But like, no, she thought Kif was dead. They both were like mourning, and like she did nothing wrong. She did literally nothing wrong. You know what I mean? Like it's like that to me. I'm like, how can you even compare? Like this one, she is just like straight up being like pretty shitty to Kif.
She says like right after Kif breaks it off, instantly she's just like, fuck it, I'm single. And then she says like, which is like, I guess, you know, but when Fry asks if they're gonna get a divorce, and then she's like, well, we weren't even technically married. I'm like, I don't even think she would say that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it feels like she just kind of treated it like it was disposable a little bit. Like, she's not crying ever in the episode. Like, she just kind of hops out of it.
It's a bummer. And then it's really weakly resolved at the end, where it's just like Bender does the Bender thing and tosses Amy to the side, and like he just kind of comes back a little machoer, and then they like ride away to the sunset.
Hate the ending, bro.
It's lazy. Just really
hate
lazy.
The ending. It's like it's. I guess it's kind of a funny joke. It's not kind of. It is a funny joke where he's like monogamous, and like there's just that hard cut. That's funny.
That's a funny joke.
I hate that that's where it ends.
and you know what's funny is like I don't even really hate Amy and Bender together. I think they're kind of funny. Like they're kind of a funny couple. I just didn't like how they got there and like the work they did to. Also, like it didn't need to be Amy. Like I don't understand. If you're gonna do the story with Bender, why is it Amy? Why are you sacrificing character development
with Lucy Liu?
That's right. Well, it was Lucy Liu. Lucy Liu. It was that's right. That's true.
Because Bender had like her head, I think.
That's right. And she shows up in another episode too. That's pretty funny. Honestly, and even then, like I kind of have a hard time believing that like they would like that the robosexual thing would be so taboo that far in the future. I guess it depends on how long robots have been around, but like, you know what I mean? If they're sentient beings, like they appear to be, I feel like society should be caught up, you know?
Right. Yeah. Especially since nowadays people be never mind.
You're already there, man. We're already there.
Yeah, we already there, bro. That's what I'm saying. Progress has been made like shit.
I do love the joke though when they're talking about Prop Infinity and Hermes is like, yeah, we got to legalize it. And like, we're talking about robosexual marriage. We're talking about lots of stuff.
That's okay. One of my notes is, how is weed not legal?
Well, that's the thing is like, that's the thing is like, it definitely is like, there's so much you always kind of have to reconcile with Futurama. They are always going to be making commentary on modern things, but in the future. And when this episode came out, weed was not recreationally legal almost anywhere in this country.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think it's weird for a lot of people that felt impossible for a long time. And now it's just like so obvious that it's going to be legal everywhere soon, you know, like it's just clear.
Right.
And so there's always going to be those things where you're just like, and part of some of them are jokes. Some of them are jokes where they're like in an episode in 2002 or whatever, you got Conan O'Brien saying, "I may have lost my freakishly long legs in the War of 2012," you know, or it's very funny. Or you got the suicide booths, America's favorite suicide booth since 2008. You know what I mean? Like you've got those that are supposed to be jokes, but there's always going to be stuff where there's like, oh, they're doing a parallel to something today, even though that probably is not going to be a thing. iPod, cell phones, you know, there's just lots of them. Yeah.
Yeah. There's okay, here's a question. That thing that happens early in the episode where Bender is like making all that like random art all over the place.
Yeah.
That's the Aqua Teen thing, ain't it?
Oh, they did do that for Aqua Teen, huh? Like that was the thing that was like they thought was a bomb threat or whatever. Right. They thought they were bombs. Yeah. Well, I wonder if it was in direct reference to it.
It looks like it. It looks like how the Moon Knight art looked.
Did it really?
Yeah, because it was like, you know, Bender's art was like all pixely and shit, and that's just the Moon Knights, honestly.
Right.
It kind of looked like, well, it was kind of like Light Brights, but you know, it was kind of the same thing.
Huh. I'm not seeing anything about it, but I feel like that must have been part of it. Mm-hmm. I do know this was very blatantly about the Prop 8 thing. Like I'm looking at it now, even though the what's it called? The advertisement, which I think I wrote down a quote from, which is pretty funny. What did they say? Wait, where did I put it? I swear. Oh, I must have lost that. I swear I wrote this down. There's like a joke where she's just like, I don't understand robosexual marriage, and how am I supposed? I don't know. It's like, fuck. I swear I wrote it down and I can't remember it, but it was like some funny joke with the Prop 8, like in the Prop 8 commercial, just making fun of the people in the commercial. And that was a direct parody of an actual ad, like this Gathering Storm advertisement, where it's like literally just all these people like in the midst of a storm being like homosexuality is coming for you and your kids and all that shit. And it's just like, it's so embarrassing. It's so fucking embarrassing. That's why they had George Takei in this episode, because he's openly gay and they wanted to have him in the episode about that. Yeah, it's interesting. Should we move on? Move on to 605?
One last thing, because we talked about it before, is the professor's weird character turn in this one. When he is the one that is against homosexuality, and he's really against it. And then like they go to the debate, they have like a debate about it, and Bender's like, "Man, you ain't never even been with a robot before." And then the professor just like, he's like, "Man, yes I have." And then he just tells this story, and then he's instantly like on the other side. And I was like, right, that's dumb.
Yeah, I mean, like, and obviously it plays on the whole like. It plays on sort of the like stereotype that like the people most against this stuff are secretly harboring their own like real feelings about that, you know, which I feel like is more harmful than good to perpetuate. But yeah, it kind of, I agree. Not my fave. All right. Should we move on to 605, the Da Vinci Code, the Da Vinci Code. Okay, here's my review 10 years ago. Don't feel this way anymore. The first brilliant episode of the new season, with some truly hilarious moments and a perfectly sci-fi twist on the Da Vinci Code. This episode had me laughing on the edge of my seat. Okay, 20-year-old John. I think this episode is fine. I don't dislike it, and I don't love it. I do like them going on like a mystery tour, like, oh, we gotta solve this thing, figure it out, we have to go solve it, like doing the Da Vinci Code thing. I like that. I think that works. Is this the first in-person Space Pope appearance? I feel like it is. First time we see this, it's like they've only mentioned the Space Pope before, and they like shown him in like a commercial, I think, but I think this is the first time we actually see him in Space Rome, the Space Vatican or whatever. I wrote down Farnsworth is cock blocking because he stops Fry and Leela. Which is like, want to join the Mile Deep Club? Yeah, full on.
Def cock blocking.
there's that. There's a great interaction with Professor and Fry where so you could barely remember your own name, Einstein. He said Einstein is a hard name to remember.
Great joke. Really good joke. I do think at least Fry is stupid. I do think this episode makes him stupider than he was for the sake of the story. And I think it works here. It definitely works better than the things they did with Amy in the previous episode. But I do think it's kind of a continuation of that same issue we're seeing where they're like, oh, these characters are just a little bit of caricatures of themselves in the wrong ways.
You know what cartoon this happens to? It happens to Fairly Odd Parents.
Really?
Anybody that like grew up with that cartoon and like saw it like in the later years can kind of attest to that. But like they'll like Wanda, she was kind of like the mother figure, and like yeah, she would try to tell everybody like the right thing to do and everything like that, but that wasn't like her only trait. Like she would like be able to have fun with everybody and stuff like that. But then like at a certain point, bro, there's like an episode where like she just says nag. Like that's the only thing she says. Nag, 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 nag. Like they call her, they make her become like a nag. And then they like characterize it to the point where like she says stuff like that. And it's wild to see. Like that show is like that show is, if any show is guilty of that, it's definitely that.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I watched the early seasons of Fairly Odd Parents, but I fell off pretty quick.
It's jokes. That shit is funny.
Yeah,
like it is a funny show.
I remember liking it when it came out. Yeah. I do think there's some really funny jokes in this. I think there's some cool ideas. Like I like the old timey Da Vinci bots that are like made out of wood. I think those are cool. Mm-hmm. I laughed really hard at like, I can't remember the whole build up, but like the professor is trying to solve part of the puzzle and he just does some like really bad word association where he's just like Trevi fountain. And like, there's no like cognizant connection between what he said first and where he came to. And then he just goes, there can be no question. Like, I really like that. I thought that was a funny joke.
I like,
sorry, go ahead.
I like, right when Professor decides like what they have to do, and I was like, we gotta go figure this shit out. And Hermes is just like, didn't we used to be a delivery company?
yeah, I love that shit. I love that. That's good stuff. Yeah, and they make a funny reference to that later that we'll talk about. But I do like the whole idea of this last part of the episode too, where they find Da Vinci's ship. It takes them back to another planet, and it turns out Da Vinci is the stupidest person on this very intelligent planet. And I like the way it messes with people's perceptions of intelligence. You know what I mean? Like the professor is one of the smartest people on Earth. He looks up to Da Vinci as this like iconic genius, like historic iconic genius. And then, but he looks down on Fry for being so stupid. And then he gets somewhere where he realizes like, oh, wow, this must be what Fry feels like. You know what I mean? Like, I'm doing the best I can. This must be how Fry feels.
And I love like that the episode explores that like none of them can handle it. Like they're so used to being the smartest person in the room, and then when they're not, it just fucking breaks them. And then I love that Fry is the one that says like, you know, like somebody is always going to be smarter than you in the room. Yes. Like, you know what I mean? And I remember when he said that, I was like, huh. Like, I didn't think that that's where they were going to go, but they went there. And I was like, I like that a lot. I really like
It's a really good moment. It's an emotionally intelligent moment for Fry, which I love. Because he is a dummy, but he does have that like nice emotional intelligence a lot of the time, which I think is one of the reasons he's such a lovable character. I did realize this time, for the first time ever watching this episode, that this is basically the story of Leonardo da Vinci being a school shooter. Like he's literally like, you guys all made fun of me, and so I'm gonna kill you with my machine. Like, it's really just like straight up like that kind of a story, which I'd never like. Obviously, back then, I was like, it's not as on the top of your mind, but like that is kind of the angle of this story.
Right.
And then he ends up dying from the machine itself. And I do just laugh every time at the line, "Poor Leonardo da Vinci, he sure was stupid." That is so funny. Just to write that into anything and have it make sense is very funny. Yeah, I like this episode. I think it's good. I gave it back then a 5 out of 5. I think I give it a between a 3 and a 4 out of 5 now, maybe a 3.5 out of 5 if I could do halves. I think it's a solid episode. Not incredible, not bad. Yeah. You got anything else? Want to move on?
Yeah, no, let's go.
All right, now we're on Lethal Inspection. So I gotta call myself out here. Let's read my review.
Okay.
I can't believe this is what I said. I said another very solid Futurama episode. I didn't think it was the best of the new season, but it really felt like Futurama. Overall, the episode was good, not great, but the ending was excellent. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. This is definitely, of these first 6, the best episode. I think all around. It's the best one. I probably give it a 5 out of 5. I mean, if we're doing the 5-point scale, I give it like a 9-ish out of 10 or whatever, but this is just a great episode. This is such a fun episode. So this is the one where Bender realizes he's mortal, which is a great Bender plot because he is so existential. Like that is such it's such a smart storyline to have Bender have to go through the crisis of realizing he will die one day. And it's like he goes through this experience where he figures out that his backup unit is faulty. Therefore he can never come back. If he dies, he can't be uploaded into a new body. And then instead of like accepting that, he instead tries to find someone to blame, and he realizes he's blaming the inspector who inspected him when he was born, Inspector 5. And so it's a Bender and Hermes story. Bender and Hermes go on his journey to the central bureaucracy to figure it out, and it's a fun pairing that we've never seen before. And I will give them that. This season does some fun pairings that we've never seen before. And this one in particular, I think works great. It's very funny. Yeah. And like, there's a good joke at the beginning where they're just like, oh, you'd have to go to the central bureaucracy where all those bureaucrats blend into the woodwork or whatever. And then you cut to Hermes, goes, I beg to differ. And he's wearing the same shirt color as the wall. And he just looks like he's just blending in perfectly. Okay, so here's a joke that was actually a callback that I don't know if you noticed. So you remember the last time we went to the central bureaucracy was how Hermes requisitioned his groove back?
Okay.
There was a guy in line there, an old man and the joke in that one was still waiting on my birth certificate. And in this one, he gets to the front of the line and asks for his death certificate and dies.
Oh shit.
So he's been in line for years.
That's
been in line for years and years. Yeah. That was a funny callback. How do you feel about this episode? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, bro. Like, when I was a kid, I remember when this aired, I like, fucking annoying ass kid, I was like, well, actually, they told us that Bender was born this way in this other episode from fucking, you know what I mean? And then, like, I just kind of, so that made me write off how sweet the ending to this one is.
Yeah.
But fucking perfect ending, man.
It's
like,
so good.
Fuck all of that other shit. And like I told you earlier, like, like, it is very easy to excuse that original origin for Bender because that was his account. Like, that was him recounting how he was born. So, like, he could very much so just not remember, and he's like an unreliable narrator on that. And this could very much so be truly where he came from. And yeah, man, like I liked seeing Bender and Hermes together, and I like seeing Bender like except Hermes is like the homie. Like, he's like, he said, when he tells him, he's like, you're on the do not kill list, which is like a silly line, but it's so like, good. It's like a silly line, but it's very important for a character like Bender. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
the way he
hearing it made me smile.
Yeah, I'm putting you on the do not kill list. I wrote it. That is a great and heartfelt line. It really is. Like, in the context of Bender, that is a important line. Like, I think there's an episode earlier I I don't remember if it's one of the movies or where he talks about how he's like, whenever I said kill all humans, I always whispered except for one. And he's talking about Fry. He's like, that's a big deal. It's a big deal. It really is a big deal.
I think that's Bender's big score.
I think you're right. I think I think when they think Fry is dead. Yeah. But yeah, I really like their dynamic solving the mystery. I also think it does a really great job laying down the clues, but not overtly. You know what I mean? Like the way there's that moment in the central bureaucracy where he opens up the filing cabinet to look for Inspector 5 and he like hits Bender in the face and Bender falls down. And you think like, you could just think it's a physical gag, but really that was him doing it on purpose to steal the file so that Bender wouldn't see that it was him. And then the same at the end, like when he's at the computer, you find out what he was really doing at the computer, which is, it
was like literally logging in because they recognized him. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. It's great. And then like, even though Hermes is technically on this adventure to cover his own tracks so that Bender doesn't hate him, they become friends on their adventure. And I love Bender's meltdown at the end when he's just like punching the wall. He's like, yes, no, maybe.
Yeah, man.
I'm Bender. I deserve better. I'm Bender, damn it. It's great. And then Hermes says, you are Bender, which is something Inspector 5 will never be. Man, I fucking love this episode. It's great. And then him being excited when Hermes walks out of the house, but also Hermes limboing out of the rubble is perfect.
Love it.
It's perfect.
Love Bender and Hermes limboing when they're on top of the train.
Yes.
Love that.
Yes, totally. Also good jokes with those bots where there's someone said fire. I think the best one though is like, I don't see howitzer. Someone said howitzer. It's really clever. Those are really great jokes. And then I just like Bender's like realization at the end. It's so funny because in the context of like anyone else, he's got it good. He's like, you only get so many millions of years on this earth, which is a funny thing to say. Yeah, it's great. Great episode. And then obviously, which we touched on, the ending little montage where everyone goes and everyone leaves and Hermes pulls out the file and burns it. And you see the file disappear and you see it was Hermes all along, who's Inspector 5. And then we see he just picks up this adorable little Bender and he can't bring himself to trash him because even though his backup unit's defective, and he just lets him go. And like, man, it's like, I could see how some people might be like, oh, you're doing too much to like, you're doing too much of the prequel-y thing where you're over-explaining these characters like previous relationships. It's just such a good moment that I don't care. Like I just don't care.
Me too.
It's so good. And the song they chose, the Little Bird song. Oh man. And then also the fact that he like resigns after. He's just like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah,
like I'm out of here. Yeah.
Because I almost had to throw him away, and I don't know if another one is going to come along to where like I can't find myself to do it. So he just leaves. Yeah. Love it.
Yep.
Love it.
Good episode. 5 out of 5, maybe 9 out of 10. Love it. Love this episode a lot. One of my favorites of the entire Comedy Central run, easily. And then we're moving on to probably my favorite of the Comedy Central run. 607, the late Philip J. Fry. All right, let me read my review. I give it 5 out of 5. So I was on the same page as I am now. And I guess I had known this information at the time. I didn't remember this, but I said when David Cohen said this episode was the Emmy shot, he wasn't joking. Filled with some great humor, brilliant visuals, and an engaging and emotional story. The late Philip J. Fry will likely go down as one of my favorite Futurama episodes.
Nice, you were right.
I was spot on. I believe.
Spot fucking on.
I believe. Let me see. Where did I rank it? Do you remember? I think you edited that part.
I did. It was. I don't remember what it was though.
It's pretty high. I have it at 7. Seventh best episode of the whole show. Pretty high. There's only of my S tiers. I only have 2 from the Comedy Central run.
It was Meanwhile.
That's right.
And
Late Philip J. Fry and Meanwhile. Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
And the rest are just all my favorites from the original run.
So you had the last one in A.
No, meanwhile.
No, the last one we just did, Lethal.
Yes, I put that in. Yes, listed as number 29 in an A rank.
How do you feel about that now? You still feel
I
that
do
way?
think it's an A. I do think it's an A. It's so hard to rank these things. Like, I'm looking at the ones above it. So above it, I have Brannigan, Begin Again, Fry and the Slurm Factory, Teenage Mutant Needless Hurdles, I Roommates, Bender's Big Score, Hell is Other Robots, A Fistful of Dollars, Bending in the Wind, A Big Piece of Garbage. Like, all episodes I really like. The Day the Earth So Stupid, Jurassic Bark, The Why of Fry, Problem with Poplars. Like, it's so hard to argue that it deserves to be higher. It is so good. The only other it looks like it is my fourth highest episode of the revival. Okay. My third being Reincarnation. You remember Reincarnation?
Yeah, I remember liking that when I was a
really
kid.
Cool. Really good episode. We'll get there in the next set of episodes. Really, really good episode. The one, in my opinion, the one anthology of the revival seasons that like really fucking works. It's great. Okay, let's talk about the late Philip J. Fry, which I've talked about a billion million times. It's a great episode. It is, and he said it was the Emmy shot, and they won the Emmy. He called it. Nice. They actually won the Emmy for this. The second Emmy for Outstanding Animated Program in Futurama history. First one being for Roswell That Ends Well. Ironically, 2 time travel episodes after they said for years we won't do time travel, which is funny. It's a great episode. Like, I just think it all comes together so well. This is another one where it's like, okay, they gave Fry a sort of character trait that we don't always see from him, but we believe, which is the being late thing. You know what I mean? Like,
it's easy to believe. Yes,
exactly. Like, it's maybe we haven't necessarily seen in a bunch of other episodes that Fry's always late, but like when we say, oh, Fry's late to all this stuff, I'm like, yeah, of course. Yeah, of course he is. And then, yeah, so I actually wrote down, I like how that feels in character for him, opposed to the stuff like with Amy and Prop Infinity. And so the whole idea is that Fry keeps showing up late to things. He's disappointing Leela. It's also an episode to do with like, it really embraces that they're kind of in this thing. Like, they're like trying to work it out, like that they might be a couple or whatever. And it's like, he's going to take her on her birthday date and all that. And then the professor makes them test his forward traveling time machine, and they launch themselves forward in time, and he is late. He doesn't make it to dinner with Leela. I think that's like, I think an overlooked dark aspect of this episode is the fact that Leela thought they died at the Hedonism Bot's party. Like, literally in this timeline, like they thought all 3 of them were dead. Yeah. Which is crazy. But it's cool.
For like 30 years, like years later.
I know.
Like, that's
years
how long
later.
she thought. Yeah.
It was like 40 years, I think. I think it was 40 years later where she's like old and she finally figures it out. There's some really, really great pieces of detail in this episode. Like, when Fry is recording the greeting card, and they fly forward in time and it flies out of his hand for like a frame or two, you see it hit Leela in the back of the head. You see old Leela's back of her head, and it hits her. And like, it's like on the first watch, you don't notice it. On second watch, you're like, oh, there she is. And that is, I just love that attention to detail. I also like, there's some funny jokes that are like in reference to older stuff, like some more overt, but I like when he's like, we're going to test out my time machine. And Bender goes, time? I can't go back there, which is like seemingly in reference to the Bender's Big Score stuff, where he's just like, he ruined time. And then also like, well, it only travels forward in time, so you can't do something disgusting like sleep with your own grandmother.
Yeah, I don't want to do that again.
It's perfect. It's perfect. And also just incredible delivery from Billy West there. Wouldn't want to do that again. Oh man, it's just like, good emotional stakes, great sci-fi idea, and like a huge conundrum where you truly are the whole time like, how the fuck are they going to get out of this? Like,
yeah. They watched the universe end. Like it's like, what do you do?
And I also liked some of the little mini conflicts we had between like when they find the future where all the kill bots are killing everyone, and Bender's like, I like it here, let's stay here. And so they go forward again, they find backwards traveling time travel technology, and Bender is just so salty that they didn't live in his favorite future that he pushes the thing forward again. That's just like a great Bender moment. That's like very Bender. Very Bender. Like literally just sacrifices their entire lives because he's salty about that one thing.
The worst.
It's great.
I love the visual of when they realize that time is like restarting and like it's like everything is like on a loop. I love the visual of when they're watching and then like there's like cavemen, and then like they have like Native Americans shoot the cavemen, and then they have the pilgrims come in.
Yes.
Like it's just like they're coming like this.
Really good.
It's so funny. It's such a funny visual.
There's a great joke there too where Bender goes, Fry, you're missing the dinosaurs. He's like, well, they're not going to go anywhere. Where'd they go? That's really funny. Yeah, it's great. All of the visuals for that sequence are so cool.
Yeah.
I also really liked seeing this alternate future where Leela runs Planet Express and it becomes this massively successful business. And I will say, like, the one aspect of this episode that I think I can understand for certain types of fans being upset with is that the Leela we followed for the show, that's her end of her story. Exist.
Yeah,
that's the end of her story
anymore.
It is pretty sad. And like, I'm able to get over that. I'm able to get over that, but I understand why that bothers people.
I do get it. Cause I'm able to look past it here too. I don't really know why, but this is
I don't really know why either. It
yeah.
feels like it should bother me, but it doesn't. It's like, I'm cool with the episode is so good that I'm cool with it.
Right. Cause it's kind of like, cause I actually talked about that before with like Rick and Morty. We're like, cause that's what they do. They just like, all right, well, we're going to follow this one now. And we're going to kill these ones so that we can stay here. Like, and that shit racks my brain. Like, I'm like, but man.
I do. Rick and Morty is though at least like reconciling with that. Like, I mean, even at the beginning of this new season, like that's which I really appreciate. I really appreciate that they go back to Morty's main universe and like we meet Jerry and we find out that after the last one, we'll talk about it when we get to season 6 of Rick and Morty. But like, that's good stuff. That's like I think that helps that issue significantly, where you're just does anything matter if they're just going to keep jumping universes when they want to? Well, when you look at the ramifications of it and see Morty like actually have to reconcile with what he has done to his like family, it's like, that's,
I appreciate that they don't fuck off. Like they make it seem like they do, but then when they go back, it's like, oh shit kept happening to these people.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? I appreciate that. I do appreciate that.
I do too. I really like the timeline where we see Leela and like we just see how she always missed Fry and she couldn't really ever find someone she liked after that. But I love the way that like Fry is, so obviously the title has two meanings. It's he's late and also they think he's dead. So the late Philip J. Fry. But I love the way that Leela, like the whole episode, Fry is just like, I need to get back to Leela. Like, I need to get back to Leela. Like we need to go back. I'm ruining this. I'm going to be late. I'm going to like, he's got all these issues. He doesn't want to miss that time with Leela that he's going to have. Like, he's like, obviously that there's still kind of a question mark as to whether they'll get together, but like, there's all of this opportunity for him ahead of him that he sees with her. And then he reads her message that she wrote once she finds out the truth. He reads her message at Cavern in the Green and realizes that through her whole life, her entire life, the time she spent with him was her favorite. Like that was it. And so he's kind of just like, well, shit, if that was like that's the best, like maybe I've already lived the best part of my life and maybe this is okay. You know what I mean? Like maybe it's okay that I got to spend the time I did with her. And like, if she got to live a whole life after that and that was the best part, then maybe it's okay if we're done. Maybe it's okay if we're doomed right now. You know, maybe it's okay if, and that's when he comes back and he's just like, all right, let's watch the universe end.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Acceptance, immediate acceptance. So I appreciate that too. One of my notes is just like, this is so sad. I didn't like. I remember it being so like a bummer, sad. But it's a bummer, bro. Like it really
is so sad. And like, I love the idea of Leela shooting into the ceiling and forming the stalactites that spell out the sentence. But the shot of Fry's tear falling on it. Oh God, Fry crying, the last drop of water that will ever hit those stalactites. Oh God. Oh, it hurts. It's so sick. Good. And it still hurts. I mean, we have to still be sad for that Leela. That's her story. It sucks. Yeah. Unless they bring it back somehow. I don't know. How do they do that? I love this episode so much. Some good gags too, like, and some great attention to detail in the first, when they go to the year 10,000, the first time they go too far forward, and they're sitting there in front of the campfire. They're burning books. One of the books has alienese on it, the like alien language that's just like that you can decipher, and on it it says, "Backwards time travel made easy." And they burned that book. Such a good gag. Yeah. And then like you said, the visuals of the universe rebooting and everything. Shooting Hitler out the window.
That shit is fam. First of all, there's that one, and then like he's like, all right, man, I'm gonna just kind of drive by it the second time, and then he fucks up and hits Eleanor. It's so funny. It's so funny.
Oh, it's so funny. Which also means that like those two versions of the universe have like one, Hitler got killed by a laser, and in another, Eleanor Roosevelt got killed with a laser. I wonder if they'll ever reconcile with that.
Yeah, because that's why I'm like, what is that like I'm thinking too much about it, but it makes me think about, like the butterfly effect.
Yeah,
like you know what I mean? Like what happens now that Eleanor Roosevelt is dead? Yeah,
I'm sure there's a lot of nerds who are more focused on the science and the comedy of that, and are like, that would have changed the entirety of that universe.
That shit is funny.
You're probably right, but this is funny.
Shit is funny.
And then I always laugh because the last sequence is both funny and heartfelt, like where he actually shows up and she's like, "You're actually on time." And he's like, "For once," and he's like, "Well, that was the old Fry. He's dead now."
He's dead now.
It's a great joke. And then also just like them on that bridge. Love that bridge. This is the first time I think you see them on that bridge, and they actually use it again later in the show to harken back to their relationship in a sad way. And it's a great moment where they're just like, what does she say? She says something great. Like, something like, I don't know, like I don't know, something about how happy she is that she's with Fry in that time she's spending there or whatever, which like I think harkens back to like what she said in her other life. And then also you just the zoom out to Bender burying the dead bodies under the bridge is really funny. Oh man, fucking great episode. 10, truly a 10 out of 10. I love
10 out of 10,
love
bro.
the late
I love
Philip
it.
J. Fry so much.
I remember really liking it as a kid, but I love this shit now. This shit is, I love it.
I know, man. It's so good. I'm glad. I was a little worried you would watch through these and still be a little like mixed on them. And like, I'm really glad these last two, which are my favorites of the season, are two you really like. That's like, that makes me happy.
I'm fucking with these. They just kind of do like some of these episodes just kind of do like weird character stuff, but they're funny. Like I laughed in all of these. Like they are funny. And that's the most important thing ultimately with Futurama, if we're being honest.
For sure. And it's like, honestly, yeah. And I think there is like also a degree of just like our relationships with these shows have changed. We talk a lot about on this podcast how we have like grown to understand how shows change, especially when we talk about The Simpsons and how we can appreciate things even when they're different. And, like, I think initially so many people were mad that this just didn't feel like the same Futurama exactly. But there's still so much to appreciate about it. So yeah, I'm glad like this has been, I'm glad we decided to do this now. I'm I'm like feeling the Futurama combo.
Yeah, man. I love
All
it.
right, let's move on to 608.
Can I let my cat out? She bugging the fuck out.
Mo, get out of there. We won't even pause. We're just gonna let you do it. I'm just gonna talk here for a minute about how much I love Futurama, y'all.
Get out.
I'm very excited for the Hulu episodes. How are you guys feeling about Hulu? Comment below. You guys worried? You guys stressed about it? I'm excited, but I'm also a little worried. That's how I feel. I wasn't worried when these came out, but now I'm a little worried. That's okay. All right. Let me read my review for 608, That Darn Katz. This is always an episode that the fan base has disliked a lot more than I do. Yes, that's what I did say that correctly. I like this episode. So what I wrote for this years ago was, going into this episode, I was slightly concerned about the premise, but I was pleasantly surprised by the quality. Definitely one of the stronger entries this season. I think at the time when this episode came out and it was like teased in the trailers and the previews, this was also the time where like the sort of lol so random cat meme shit was like prevalent on the internet to a nauseating degree, where like that's like, this was the days where like that was most of the memes were cats, like Icon has cheeseburger type of shit, you know?
Right.
And I think that is one of the reasons a lot of fans right off the bat were like, oh, it's going to be one of those fucking episodes. Like they're clear. This is too topical. They're doing the internet meme thing. Cats are popular now, so they're doing cats. I don't think this episode does that. This feels, I don't think like it does either. It's definitely cat humor, but it's like it's more related to cats than it is to like internet cat meme culture, you know?
Yeah, like they don't do the stupid cat keyboard thing. Like there's a lot of things they could have did to make it like that, and they don't do
love
it.
Keyboard cat though. I do love Keyboard cat. Unabashed Keyboard cat fan.
Sure.
But I think this is a funny premise that does some things I really like. I don't think it's like a top tier. I gave it 4 out of 5. I would probably give it 3.5 out of 5 now. Like I would give it somewhere around that. But I think there's some really funny stuff in it. I think the idea of these cats puppeteering people and like being their own like alien species is funny. And there's some really funny jokes, especially in I think the first half, that I really like. I get a little tiresome in the second half, but I think there's some good stuff in here. How do you feel about That Darn Katz?
Yeah, like I think there's like I think there's some funny stuff in here. I think this is one of the ones that I kind of felt was a little boring, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's how I feel in the back half.
Yeah. Right, yeah. But I do think it's kind of funny.
There's some good jokes that I'd never noticed before. First of all, I love the Cash Bone commercial at the beginning. Cash for your bones. I miss the like Futurama was brought to you by thing, but I do like that they still do fake ads for the future. Selling your bones for cash. Funny idea. The joke I really liked at the beginning that I never noticed was when they're like, they're testing the lava. And Amy says the magma PI is 10,000 degrees Celic, which is a Magnum PI joke. I've never noticed that joke. I think that's great. It's so funny. And then also like, look at how they portray Amy and Kif drunkenly at the bar in this episode and how adverse that is to how we saw them in Proposition Infinity. Like that, like this nails it. That is the Kif and Amy I know and remember. Like they are so cute and love each other like that so much, you know? And like,
right.
I that's why one of the reasons that part of Proposition Infinity bugs me. Because you know that would
be like if they just like it's kind of an extreme example, but I'd be like if they just kind of woke up and did that with like Bob and Linda. Like what is it? Where does that even come from?
Exactly. Like, it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully that like we don't have those issues with the Hulu years. Honestly, like if the Hulu stuff can manage to keep the characters on track and like is just at least, and I'm laughing a bit every episode, I'll be happy. Like, you know, I'll be happy.
For sure. There's speaking of that same scene that you were talking about with Kif and Amy dancing.
right before them is Fry and Bender, like kind of drunk dancing. They're just doing this. It's so funny. It looks so funny. I love the visual.
It's great. I do too. One of the things that I really like about this episode is it really it's the one time we really start to reconcile with Nibbler's new place in the crew. Like, right? It's like Nibbler is now talks, even though half the time he still does his like little pet thing. He's not always talking like this, but I like that this is one of the few things that like does demand a status quo shift in a small way, where it's just like everyone has to know he is a sentient being. He's a member of the crew now, you know, like that's who he is. He's like, sometimes we can do stories with him like that, and they really only do this and then like Game of Tones, and I think that's about it. But still, like I think that is a natural, reasonable thing to do rather than have him reset people's memories every time. You know what I mean? Like to do that again for the third or fourth time, I would much rather them just be like, no, they just know now. Like that Nibbler's just going to be Nibbler now. Also really like I like the pairing of him and Amy. I think that's a fun pairing that we've never seen before. Obviously we don't see Nibbler paired with many people because we don't get him in this form too often. Yeah. I think this is a funny episode. The premise itself, the back half kind of bores me a little bit. That's how I feel. But there are good jokes. I do think there are good jokes. I laughed a ton during her doctorate defense thing for a few reasons. One, the panel of academics are very funny. I love the like speaking the like pull and speak thing or whatever, saying like the cow says moo.
Yeah,
and then,
I got that.
Yeah, it's so good. Do you want to say it? Farnsworth
yeah, he says he proved that 50 years ago, and he's been coasting on it ever since.
so
funny.
So funny. I love that they bring back Bubblegum Tate for this. Good place to bring him back. He's funny. I think my favorite joke in the whole thing is when she tries to do it and they go, nay, hell nay. And then he pulls the thing and it goes to the horse. The horse says, doctorate denied. That is so funny.
Hilarious. Yeah,
so funny. I also love right after that, Fry is like trying to console Amy and he's like, I didn't go to college and look at me. Now I'm a prominent boy in the package delivery field. A prominent boy. That's really funny. Do you have any other big laughs this episode?
Do I have I don't think I have any big laughs, any other ones written down, but there's when they're talking about the cat planet, they have chicken salmon. And I was like, I wonder what that tastes like.
Something straight out of, it's like straight out of Avatar. They have all the hybrid animals in Avatar. Yeah. Okay, so the joke, it's like a two-part joke that makes me laugh, has made me laugh for years since this episode aired. The one that I always remember. It's the first part of it is when they're like talking about like, you're always dressing up in that cute sailor suit. And he goes, I told you that's my actual naval uniform. And then later they dress the cat up in the uniform and they're like looking cute. And he goes, my best friend died in that uniform. That is funny. So funny. I love that joke a lot. But yeah, I'd say solid, not amazing episode. Like good, not great. I mean, that's how I feel about a lot of these. Like, it's just like, yeah, this is fine. Yeah. All right, let's move along.
Yeah, let's do it.
Clockwork Origin. Great title. This is an interesting one because I was like responding to some of the reaction to it already. So I said, wow, I seriously can't figure out the hate on this episode. I thought that it was truly hilarious. Not only that, it's had some really awesome ideas behind it. Good analysis, John. I laughed almost the entire time. Seriously, haters gonna hate, I guess. Second best of the season, IMO. Which, not the case anymore. I do think this is a good episode. I especially on the sci-fi side of things. I really like the ideas behind this. I don't laugh a whole lot while watching it. Yeah, I laughed during certain parts, but no, this is not This is not. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I was thinking. Second best of the season.
You're riding that Futurama high, man.
I know.
That's what that is.
I know. I always got to be optimistic.
This is the one with the famous line. I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
And we didn't even talk about how Killer App has shut up and give me my money. Like two of the most iconic Futurama memes. I honestly, arguably the two most iconic Futurama memes.
The only other one is when he squints
squinty eyes.
That's the only one that's from the early.
And that is
Fox
from.
It's the Flexo one.
It's the Flexo episode. I'm trying to remember the title. The Lesser of Two Evils is what that one's called.
Okay.
It's the Flexo episode because he's suspicious of Flexo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But like, these like I get that. I get that shit under my under like tweets and stuff now where like
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
Not that. I was like, all right, you guys want this video? And then like people have put the fry with the money and shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like I get that shit
right
now. Like it's still there. You know, people still use that.
It's a good meme. It's a great meme. And actually it's a good episode. It's a good moment in that episode. Even though that episode's mid to bad, it's a funny moment where the guy is just like telling him all of the headaches that are going to come with owning the iPhone. And he just goes, shut up and give me my money. It's like pretty accurate. I really liked the line. First of all, this is another situation where I'm like, I don't believe that in 3010 we're going to be having fierce evolution debates. I don't. I really don't. I don't think that's going to be happening. Maybe. Who knows? I love the mom who's at the school saying, I don't understand evolution and I have to protect my kids from understanding it. That's very funny. And I do laugh at the beginning with like Dr. Banjo coming in. I like him saying my ancestors were hardworking, patriotic orangutans. That makes me laugh. And then I like the sequence where he's just like, there's no missing link. And Farnsworth's like, well, actually, here's the missing link. And he's like, aha, but there's no missing link between those. He's like, well, actually, here it is. And he goes down like the whole list. And it's like 20 of them. And he's like, you're right. We don't have that one. Damn it. We don't have the one missing link.
When they're looking for the missing link, they do a joke that I hate.
Yeah, what you got?
It might only be me. And that's okay. But when Hermes says, "Oh shit, it's another one of Fry's dogs," I hate it. Don't do that.
It's kind of funny. I get why you hate it, but it is kind of funny. Like, also just like, oh shit. Another one of Fry's dogs.
Right.
It's funny. It is like annoying, but funny.
I think that's what I think that's what it is. I think I was just annoyed by it. Cause I don't think it's a bad joke. I just kind of was like, stop.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
They're just like always torturing the audience over that shit. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Okay, so like I also just like from a sci-fi concept the idea of his nanobots evolving and like I think on paper this is a cool episode. Him being fiercely like creationism is impossible. Everything evolved, and then creating the nanobots that then evolve, and then the society in which he is now like talking to, they're like, well, like you explain evolution to us. And he's like, yes, well, I did create these robots. And they're like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, and you know, like I'm not one to like, I don't have much stake in this kind of debate, but like, I do like, cause the thing about Futurama is it's such a fiercely scientific show. Obviously everyone in the show is so dedicated to science in a like really significant way, but it's also not like the writers clearly aren't not religious. Like there is a lot of religious themes and religious episodes. You've got Bender meeting God. You've got like you've got a lot of religious imagery and ideas in here. And I like the idea that they come to a middle ground where they're like, well, yeah, evolution is real. Stop arguing against it because of this book. But also like something could have definitely created the world where evolution happens, you know. Like
I do appreciate and just like, because there's just, especially now, there's like a lot of media that's just like, no, bruh, science, fuck out of here. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
But like, I do appreciate that Futurama is like both. It's
yeah,
kind of like,
exactly,
just like both.
exactly. Yeah, it's like it really could be both, y'all, and you don't have to believe. You don't have to, but like it really could be. Like we don't have to fight. Like
right.
I do think that's the most important thing is that like I don't understand why people take that so literally when they read like the Bible or whatever, and they're just like, this explains exactly how it happened. And I'm like, no, it's pretty vague. Like, it's pretty vague. Like it does not explain exactly. If you want to believe that, that's fine. But like, is it not more impressive to you for your God to have created like a kind of being that could evolve like this over time? Or is it like more impressive they just like, oh, this is how everything is, despite all evidence to the contrary? You know, like it just seems silly. It seems like a silly debate to me that like does not need to be debated. It's weird.
I get you.
Yeah. But yeah, I do like cool, especially seeing all the like the robot beings, like seeing the robot dinosaurs and the robot trees and the like there's really, really cool stuff in this one visually. I liked it. Then you got that subplot with Zoidberg and Qbert.
Oh right, that is this one.
And I laugh so hard at the end line where he says like he doesn't like Qbert or whatever, and everyone's laughing, and he's just like, I'm serious. He's a terrible person. It's like Zoidberg. And when Zoidberg's saying that, like, he means it. Like Zoidberg is the nicest dude.
Piece of shit kid.
Yeah, for real. Oh man. All right, let's wanna move on?
Yeah, I don't got much for this one.
Yeah, that's all I got. I really like this one. I didn't write down as much for this one, but this one is a great episode. This one is called The Prisoner of Benda. Written by Ken Keeler, the legend himself. This episode is famous because Ken Keeler had to write a real peer-reviewed mathematical proof to ensure that the way everyone switches back into their bodies at the end would work. Like that is one of the crazy things about this episode is like, this is like for the science nerds, this is the episode. The Futurama
theorem.
Yes, exactly. The Futurama writers made a mathematical proof to make their cartoon work. And that rules. I really enjoy this episode. I think it's a really fun sci-fi premise. I think they do really funny things with the body swapping. Let's read what I had to say 12 years ago. That episode was truly brilliant. It wasn't as hilarious as other episodes, but it was one of the most well-written and well-thought-out plots ever. Very smart review, John. I give it 5 out of 5. I do give this episode a high mark. I give this episode like a 9 out of 10, probably. Somewhere up there. It's a good ep. I really think they do a great job finding reasons that the characters want to swap bodies with each other.
Okay, sure, yeah.
I think that's fun. Like the way that like Amy's just like, I want to be able to eat a bunch. and Farnsworth's just like, I'm old and I can't do anything. And they're like, all right, let's swap. And then also the way that like you've got Fry, like Leela's got this having some like body image issues and taking it out on Fry a little bit, where she's just like, like you're only into me for my looks then. And so she switches into Farnsworth's body to be like, do you still like me? And then I love Fry calling her bluff and being like, well, I'm going to be Zoidberg then. Do you still like me? And the answer is, yeah, they do. They bone down as Zoidberg and the Professor.
Sick world. Sick world.
I used, there's a video I did on Zoidberg, I think. And I use a clip about Zoidberg connecting with other characters, and I used the clip of them making out, and everyone is like, I see what you did. That wasn't really Zoidberg. I'm like, it's still a good clip. It's still a good clip,
yeah. Bro. Yeah, I feel you, bro.
I feel you. I probably do the same shit. I do. Now that it's talking about Zoidberg, I like Zoidberg and Fry's body because of how they animate him. They do a really good job of like animating how they would animate Zoidberg,
Yes,
but like just making it Fry, like
Love
the
that.
way he walks, and like the funniest detail to me is that like since Zoidberg is so used to like having a thing like over his mouth, like you know, like Fry's mouth is like ajar most of the time. Like he's like.
Right,
Like
he's got his mouth open. Oh, that's so interesting. I didn't even notice
funny.
that.
I love it.
Oh, good attention to details there.
Yeah.
I like that. I like the moment where, what is it? So Bender's eventually in Amy's body, right? And he's trying to convince them that he's a robot. He's convinced the other robots he's a robot, and he just does the moonwalk.
Yeah, and they're like, "Whoa, he gotta be a machine."
Yeah. He steps forward but moves backwards. It's really funny. Also, this goes back to when Fry decides to be Zoidberg. The way Hermes describes it is a man can give her a toke of her own medicine. That's pretty good. Man.
A toke.
It's great.
They kill it with the Hermes weed shit, man. It's funny. It's always
There's
funny.
a lot of it. I think they realized they could get away
funny.
with more of it on Comedy Central probably. Sure. Yeah.
It's funny. It's really it's just the only thing that this season is missing. And I feel like they had opportunities to do it in the holiday spectacular, but we not adding nothing to the honky meter this time. And they could have.
Oh,
they had ample opportunity. Nothing
I'm trying to think of how many. Yeah, because now we got the Globetrotters back in this one too, which just like I love that they bring, like, it's my favorite. One of my favorite things about the show is that they bring in the Globetrotters for intense academic shit. That's my favorite. Yeah. My favorite thing. It's so funny that like they're not like, it's not like we got sports or basketball related things to do. It's like we got to bring in the greatest minds we know, the Globetrotters. It's the best. It's the best. And built off of their first appearance, where like that's like the joke. They come to embarrass people at basketball, and then they learn that, oh yeah, they're actually all geniuses and they're gonna help. Right. They're gonna help us solve all these problems. Yeah. A few lines that I laugh hysterically at in this one. One's a callback, and it's when what's this called? Bender is in the, what's the guy's like the Robo Hungarian emperor or whatever, in his body, and he's given a speech, and someone yells like, "We love you" or whatever, and he goes, "Shut up, Madam Ambassador, I know it."
Yeah. I forgot about that.
Callback to "Shut up, baby, I know it," but it's just like Madam Ambassador is so funny. Like, shut up, Madam Ambassador.
The funniest thing about that part to me is that, like, which is something they never do. They never do it. I don't know why they broke this rule here, but it's so funny. They make the robot smile, and it is so funny. Like, they turn the corners of his mouth up when he says it.
Oh, man. The other line that makes me laugh hysterically in this one is... just this whole subplot. So eventually they trade minds. Someone trades minds with, what is it? Is it okay? So Nikolai trades with Bender, who is in Amy's body, and then Amy's body trades Nikolai with the wash bucket.
Right.
And so the wash bucket is in Amy's body, and Nikolai is in the wash bucket. And then Amy, also great character animation, where she's just like very stiff, like, because she's a wash bucket, goes like, puts on lingerie and goes to Scruffy, and it's like, "Scruffy, I love you." and Scruffy, this is like probably the funniest line Scruffy's ever delivered. He goes, "Oh, it would be sweet at first, but in the back of our mind, we know that I'm a man and your janitorial equipment." It's so good. It's so funny. I love it. I really love that joke. I think it's so good.
I love Scruffy, bro.
Scruffy is so good.
That's
Just
my
a great,
guy.
great character.
I fuck with Scruffy.
Yeah, amazing character. Great moment. I really love this episode. I think this is such a smart episode and a really fun episode. And I feel like it's one that really does a great job with all the characters. All the characters involved, they did a really great job with. Yeah, big fan of this one. All right, any other? Oh, and then also just like I love the way they showcase them solving the theorem, or like the mathematical proof, and then the way they show everyone switching back, and you can actually track how they get back into their original bodies. Really cool. Really fucking cool. All right, move on to 611.
Let's do it.
All right, here's my review back in the day.
Holy shit, I got a lot of notes for this.
Do I too? No, I only have a few. I have a lot for the Mutants Are Revolting. Okay. Here was my review. Solid episode. Not the best of the season by a long shot, but I expect to look back on this episode and be thoroughly entertained. I would say I look back on this episode and I am mildly entertained. I would say I was wrong back then. I like the idea of giving Lur an episode. And I think there's some really funny ideas. I think there's some really funny ideas in this episode. I just don't love its execution in general. Pretty low on my list for me, but there are good gags. I will say my first note though is like I generally love all of the scary doors, and I felt like this one was kind of whatever. Like this opening scary door was like, okay, sure. But love the Futurella stuff when they're going to the convention and it's like the Futurama crew making Futurella.
Love it. Canceled
so
as soon
funny.
as before the intro can even play. Canceled.
Yep.
Love it.
Fox has really streamlined the process.
Yeah, I love it. I love when they put it up there on the screen. Everybody just fucking takes their phones out. Love it. Funny.
Yes,
that shit is hilarious.
That's perfect.
Love it. And I also love I talked about it earlier, but I love the fact that it's 30-10 and there's still not another fucking Simpsons movie.
Still not another one. And also they specifically say just about Futurella, not about the Simpsons when talking. And the first thing Bender asks is, when are you going to make another Simpsons movie?
He just fucking
really
shoots
funny.
him.
Yeah, just shoots him. Yeah, I love it.
Oh man, there's a gag at the convention that kills me. It's when Lur first gets there. And he's just talking, and he's so high above the mic, and the guy's like, "Wait, hold on."
Oh, I love that gag. It's so good. It's so good. It's so funny. It's so funny. Oh man, I get a lot of use out of the footage of this episode in my Futurama videos. Whenever I talk about the writers, I use these clips. It's just the perfect thing to use. So like probably one of the top most used episode clips in my videos out of any episode, which is really funny. Especially because it's very low on my like overall ranking list, I think. Good guest star in this as girl Katie Sackhoff, who's a great actress. She's I think I know her most intimately from Star Wars. She's in the Clone Wars show, and she reprised her role in live action in The Mandalorian. She plays a Mandalorian named Bo-Katan, who's a great fucking character, really cool character. I think the first ever character to play herself in the animation first, and then cross over into live action and play herself also. Nice. Because like they did have Ahsoka come in, but they had Rosario Dawson play Ahsoka and not the voice actress who played her in the show. So it's hard. Like they probably maybe they could have had Ashley Eckstein play her. But like you have to, you need your character to look like
the look. Yeah.
And Katie Sackhoff does look like her character in Clone Wars.
Heard.
And they also like, although the one thing that doesn't make sense is like the Clone Wars takes place like 30 years before, and she looks so young in The Mandalorian. I'm like, how did she did not age at all. She looks so young. You didn't even do anything to make her look older. And then you've got characters like Boba Fett, who is basically the same guy, Jango Fett, and you see how he's aged between the prequels and there, and you're like, oh, he's old. It's just funny to compare and contrast. Anyway, Star Wars tangent over. Yeah, there are some good jokes in there, like in relation to Lur and his like ending his thing with the Ninda, which is also, this is a great title, Lur Reconcilable Indian Differences.
Oh, it's so funny.
It's pretty fucking great.
It's so funny. It's so funny, bro. I think I'll just say it now. I think I like this episode more than you do. Like,
cool. Talk about it then.
I think it's. I just think this shit is hilarious, man. Like,
cool.
like you said, I think it's very, very fascinating that like I would never thought to do it. I think it's very fascinating that they decided to give Lur an episode.
Yeah.
Like, and I also think that it's fascinating that in order to give Lur an episode, they decided to focus on his relationship, because I guess that's really practically the only thing that they gave him beforehand.
Yeah, true.
That they could do it with. And I don't know. I just think this one is so funny. Like, there's that, I talked about the Mike bit, which I love. That entire bit at Comic-Con when they're doing the Futurama thing it kills me. I love Zoidberg eating the action figure. I just thought that, just thinking of like the ramifications of like a random guy at Comic-Con eating an action figure. Like, like I got like an emotional reaction out of me. I'm like, wait, no, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I think that's funny.
I get some good laughs. Like, I think my biggest laugh, there's two. One is when Girl is like, cool cape, where'd you get that? And goes, this old thing? I murdered my father. That's so funny.
I love that. I love the C plot of this episode, which is Fry making
Fry
a
in his comic book. Yeah.
I love how the comic looks. I love how simple his writing is.
You know what? I'm gonna see if I can find a copy, but I'm gonna send it to you if I can. They gave out at Comic-Con 2010 a little tiny copy of Delivery Boy
shit.
Man. Yeah.
No shit.
If I can find them
fire.
cheap, I'm gonna send you one.
I love it. No shit.
Oh no, they're so expensive. Oh no, they're so expensive.
How much we talking, man? Just lay it out. Just lay it out on the table.
This one is signed, so I was like, maybe it's fine because this one's signed, but it's $350 signed. There's one graded really high for $400, and that's not even buy it now. That's bids. This one, like, I don't think anyone's gonna buy this, dude. They're listing it for $324, and it doesn't even look like it's not in good shape. You can see creases on it.
Oof.
Homie, dang it! If I'm gonna
get that shit out of here, bro.
Wait, do I have a copy of this one actually? I might have a copy from when I bought all of those, when I was buying all those Futurama comics. There's a lot I need to. I do want to fill out my collection. I have a really substantial amount. It would be really sick if I could finish that collection. I might start.
I helped a little bit.
For that. You did help. You gave me a lot of issues I didn't have. They're little beat up, but you know what? Like, I'm focusing on getting the complete collection, and then if I want to upgrade copies that need help later, I'll do it.
Because I used to because when Futurama ended, like I was like, and I started going to the comic book store around the time the show ended. So I was like, oh shit, I can keep.
It's all you got. It's all you got. Yeah.
I can keep these characters with me. You know what I mean? Like that's how I felt. So when I was moving out, I like found a bag just full of old comics and I just sent them out to everybody. I sent you all the Futurama and Simpson stuff. I sent a couple Simpson ones, right? Like, I had like a Bart.
I think you sent a Bart Man and like maybe a radioactive man. I don't know. You sent me some stuff. I'm actually gonna after this. I'm gonna look through my boxes and look at my Futurama list of what I still need.
Heard.
All right. So keep talking about. So wait. Actually, on that note though, talking about his comic book, my big laugh. I do love the way it looks. Also, my big laugh is when he's like keeps trying to update the story and upgrade the story and make it work. And there's one, and then after one time, Leela goes, tell me this, Fry. Why should I care about a hero when all he does is cry? And then Fry just starts crying.
Burst into tears.
So good.
Man.
So good.
I don't wanna like explain what goes into the sausage or anything like that. But like when I saw that clip, immediately in my head, I was like, if I ever talk about Steven Universe, I am using that.
Oh my god, dude, you have to. Oh, it's perfect.
Man, that shit got a good laugh out of me.
Oh, it's perfect, man. That's so funny. Oh man. All right, tell me else. What else do you love about this one? It's like, yeah, like it definitely sounds like you like it more than me, but I'd rather talk about the things we love than not. You know.
I heard. Yeah, I love that. In order to fake the invasion, they go get Orson Welles. That's number one. Number two is just Maurice LaMarche again, who's just doing what he did his brain and peeking the brain.
It's a good Orson Welles,
and it's a parody of that thing, that outtakes
War of the
thing
Worlds
of Orson Welles. Yeah, the where he's like, "What the fuck is this shit?" Like he's just kind of like complaining about what he's reading the whole time. For sure. Which I love that, and I love it. I love. He says, "We interrupt this broadcast of the Jonas Brothers and their orchestra." That shit is so funny to me.
Oh, it's so good.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. See, and I love when they go, they say they're gonna like fight on they're gonna fight at White Plains, which is an airport in New York, and then it's just white planes. It's so dumb. Funny. It's so dumb, but I love it. I think it's funny. How does this one end again? Do you remember?
It ends. So Lur comes back. Lur is trying to get back together with Ndinda. Then it all like kind of comes together at the Planet Express place where like Girl comes in, and then Ndinda is like, I'm not threatened by you at all, and then like shoots her, and then Fry gets zapped, and it turns out that the gun was just the thing that like teleports to different locations. Yeah,
because I wrote down "love the ending" in all caps, and I was trying to remember I love the final comic, and like what Fry does in the final comic, and that really sweet moment where like Leela says that it's great, and then she's like, well, it's kind of. It's just such a. I love that moment. Such a nice moment. Love it.
Me too. It's great.
Only thing is, I wrote that Fry. He said, I swear Fry dies like 3 times so far just this season.
Yeah, man. Well, that's the thing they do. I mean, like looking back, the whole show, they've done that so many times.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah,
they do it a lot. They do it, and they do him like almost sacrificing and or killing himself a lot.
I feel like we talked about that.
You know what? I think
the original run.
I think we did, and probably Bender's Big Score, and
because it happens
and Into the Wild Green Yonder when he's willing to like kill himself because he thinks he's the Dark One. And like one of the things I pointed out in my video about all of the finales is that in pretty much all of them, there's a moment where he is like about to sacrifice himself or kill himself. He jumps off in Overclockwise. He like jumps off the Niagara Falls or something to like, cause he doesn't want to live without Leela. Same with Meanwhile, he jumps off the Empire State Building. He almost sacrifices himself in what's it called? In Into the Wild Green Yonder. Cause he thinks he's the Dark One. And I think there's Devil's Hands isn't full sacrifice of himself, but he does give up.
It's really he just there's a sacrifice, I guess.
Yeah,
and Fry makes some kind of sacrifice in all of those. I think, at the very least, you could say. They do that. I don't know if it's the first time they do it. It might be. Day the Earth Stood Stupid. Mm-hmm. I think that might be the first fake out. Fry is dead. Maybe.
Oh yeah, because they do the he sacrifices himself in his book that he's writing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What does he say? Like a messy world filled with
spelling errors and
plot holes and spelling errors. Yeah. And then he goes, the Frank goes, I'm going back to my home planet for no reason. I fucking love this show. So good. Yeah, I'm glad you like this one. I'm really glad you like this one because like I was worried. I was worried going into these that like covering the back end of Futurama was gonna be a bummer if you weren't gonna like them. And so like I'm like any episode that I'm not as high on that you are, I'm stoked for that because I just want this show to be loved. You know, like and you know I don't know. Sometimes you've also like you turned me around a bit on Alila of Her Own, an episode I never really cared for, but your POV on that one really shifted how I looked at it. So I'm happy.
It's like one of the turning points of this podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
Very early on.
That's right. That was our like third, fourth episode, something like that. Back when we were doing a whole season a week. God, that was so much.
Yeah.
That was a lot. Should we move on?
Let's do it.
Move on to the next one. This is
episode 100.
Episode 100. The Mutants Are Revolting, which is a perfect title. Perfect Futurama title. Incredible.
Great title. Great title.
And let me read my review, which I have walked back since. I gave it 5 out of 5.
What you got for us?
Very good episode. Second or third best of the season. Top 20 ever, I'd say. Looking at my ranking, it is at 50. Granted, the show ended with 140 episodes or something. Like, that's pretty good. There's so many good episodes of Futurama. I think I just didn't really have a clear concept of how many episodes I could, but I do quite like this episode. There's a couple things about it that rub me the wrong way a little bit, but overall, I quite like this one. I think there's a lot of fun stuff. First of all, I just love the idea that they're saying like, this is our 100th delivery to denote the 100th episode. And like the idea that they've only done 100 deliveries is so funny. It's so funny. I love that they go to Elzar and like, even now, even after Bender has like beaten him in an Iron Chef competition and like had all of this history with Elzar, he still grovels to Elzar. He's like, "Oh, thanks, Elzar. Love you." He's like, great job, Elzar. I love that. Laughed really hard when he's like talking about the souffle that can explode, and he does the really quiet. He whispers, "Bam." He whispers, "Bam," because he doesn't want it to explode. And I love the shot where they're like, "Oh yeah, like Bender will hold it because he's got like he's got the gyroscopic like part of him." And then when the ship's like flying all through the asteroids and his front half of his body is staying perfectly level while everything else is moving, that shot is cool. I really like that.
Cool. It is cool.
Yeah, there's some good ideas in here. I laughed harder than I should have when he gave the souffles to the dog and they cut back and everything explodes. The dogs, all the dogs. I was just like, oh my God. Oh man. What do you think about Mutants Are Revolting?
I like this one. I do. A lot of my joy came from seeing how fucking lit Benda had that party when everybody left.
Yeah,
like immediately everybody, all those people just fucking pour in. I'm like, oh shit, Benda about to turn the fuck up.
My favorite line when he starts that party is when Yunez and Bach goes, "I trust the orgy pit has been scraped and buttered." The orgy pit. Also, buttering the orgy pit is really funny.
Sickos, nasty land.
Oh man, it's so good.
Man, they do something that is so sick in this episode to me. Which is like they make Fry park the sea, like the sewage,
like he's Moses, like he's fucking so Moses.
That shit is sick, man.
And it's interesting because it's kind of a real solid parallel, because if I'm not mistaken, the Moses story, like Moses was not native. He was floated down the river, right? He was from somewhere else, floated down the river, was not a native part of that society, and then he grew up and led them out, right? So like the idea that Fry was not a natural mutant who came down later is like, I was like, oh, it kind of is the Moses story.
It's like your 100th episode, you make the main character part the sea. It's so funny. It's so funny. I love it.
But I do love that they do for the 100th episode a status quo shift, which is that the end of this episode, the mutants are allowed on the surface, and after this, you do see them out and about. Like they still are they're still in the sewer because that's where they live, but like they are allowed to be out in the surface, and you see them in public after this.
That's great.
It's great. Like I hope they continue to do this kind of stuff in the new coming season, you know? Like, I mean, we'll see this. There's an episode called Children of a Lesser Bog. And like, I was really interesting. I was I had a tweet thread about it. This guy Matt Thornton, I think he's an artist who's done some really cool fan art of me in like Disenchantment style, and he has a
oh yeah,
he has a really
I remember seeing that stuff.
Yeah, he's great. He has like this fan illustration of what he thinks Fry and Leela's daughter would look like, and it's really great. It's really good looking stuff. But he tweeted at Josh Weinstein, and I think at me, he tagged me and Josh Weinstein in something asking people's thoughts on if what we think Children of a Lesser Bog will be. And I was really interested because like I've said what I thought it would be. In my video, I think it could definitely be the follow up to Kif and Amy's kids, or Kif and Leela's biological kids. And I hope it is. But I was like intrigued because he tagged Josh Weinstein, but Josh Weinstein is on Disenchantment. He's not on the new Futurama. And he was on the original Futurama, but he's not on it now. And he responded just as a fan. And he was responding just like, I am so excited for that Kif and Amy episode if it is what we think it is. Like seeing Josh Weinstein, who was one of the creative producers on Futurama and like a huge part of The Simpsons, being like, I can't wait to see this new Futurama. It was really cool. Like I was just
watching
really
it as a fan. Yeah, watching it as a fan.
But I think that's an idea that like it could easily just be a one-off episode that talks about them and deals with them. But I think it could be cool if like parts of their family become a part of the show moving forward. You know what I mean? Like I hope they're willing to try things like that. Cause I just don't see the point in just having
come back and do the same old shit.
Like, I mean, one of the things I love, like we talk about how much we love when the way they change things up in Simpsons. Like how much did we rave about them finally bringing in a new teacher for Bart?
Right. Exactly.
It's like, just if you've got places to change things a little bit that don't fundamentally alter the show, but do give us a new perspective or angle, do it. I don't see why you shouldn't.
Yeah. So like the changing the status quo thing, like I think that's why I really latch on to whenever Family Guy does that, because they do that a lot. Like there's like a lot of times where like characters actually die and then they never come back, or like if Peter loses a job in an episode, the show doesn't reset and Peter has that job still. Like he just doesn't have that job anymore. And they did an episode a couple weeks ago where like Cleveland starts to work at Peter's job. Cleveland loses his job and he starts to work at Peter's job. And I remember thinking mid-episode, like, I don't know if Cleveland's going to get his old job back. Like, and I like that feeling. I like that feeling in watching the story and like not being like, oh, how are they going to wrap this up and change it back to normal? Like, instead I like being like, are they going to keep this? Like, and I think Futurama could benefit from that. It can make watching it way more interesting too.
Totally. Agreed. And I hope they do that. I really hope they do. I don't know. I generally have faith that like, even if I'm not as into the Hulu era, like I expect that we will probably get a few more classics that I'm like, oh yeah, that was a banger. You know,
right,
like, you know what? I think I'm happy. I'm happy with that being like something I'm cool with, if that's what it is, you know? So we'll see how it goes. Okay, so talking more about this episode, there's a few things that so first of all, I liked that they brought back the whole idea that the lake under the sewers will mutate you, which was established in Leela's homeworld.
Right, because that's how she finds out. Yeah.
That's how she finds out, is she jumps into the lake and comes out normal. And it turns out, it's because she is a mutant already. So that was cool. One thing I don't love about the whole... I like the mutant revolting plotline. I like them rising up and being like, we belong on the surface too. The thing I don't like about it, the only one small gripe I have, is that it bums me out that Leela didn't care about this until it happened to her. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I kind of wish the story had been a little kinder to Leela in that, like, she is someone who fights for others pretty persistently, especially like we see that in like the Bird Bot of Icecatraz when she's trying to help the penguins, you know, like she's generally that kind of person. So I think the plot would have worked better if I understand how they did it, where like you did the thing where Fry lets loose that like she's a mutant on accident. He accidentally says that, and then she gets sentenced down there, and then he has the shame and regret that has to go into his story. But I think you can do both. I think you can make Leela be a champion for mutants, and then also like make it that was her thing before, and then also part of it is Fry accidentally being like, yeah, just like you or something. And like yeah, Leela's a mutant and she's great, you know, and like and so it just bums me out a little bit that like Leela, it's an issue that Leela didn't care about until it directly affected her, when it was already affecting her loved ones. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And even I feel like too, like, because that is something they played with. Remember the superhero one?
Yeah, they got passes. They got passes to come up for the day or whatever.
They play with that, and I do think that like even if they didn't do it like what you said, I think even the story could have benefited from like someone literally being like, you didn't care about this shit till it happened to you, like just kind of like throwing that piece of it in there too, you know. But I also understand how in the story that they prepared, how they could feel like there probably was no room for what I just said. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, there's probably no room for that in it.
It is a pretty packed episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Fry's mutant form is very gross.
Very gross. The gross, you know what makes it, a little color design thing that I feel like makes it gross is that his outlines are green.
Oh, that goes a long way. It's the slime from the lake. Yeah. Okay, something I noticed this time. First time I've ever noticed this. So first of all, I think the land Titanic is a funny idea. A big boat that just like slowly goes through New York. It's useless, stupid. Why? But when Fry is sad and regretful and leaves the land Titanic to go jump in the lake, as he walks out of the land Titanic, sitting on the ground in the sewer, unopened can of anchovies.
Oh shit.
Yeah, never noticed that before. Never in my life.
Shit.
There's just that's the last thing of anchovies. That's it.
That's sick.
Isn't that crazy? What a weird little callback. Yeah. Let's see. I like that they made Devo mutants. I think that's fun. Devo is very weird, quirky band that fits. Make them mutants. I love the word Gemerald. Every time they use the word Gemerald in this show, I love it. That gem they find. I think Gemerald's a funny word. How do you feel about the end of this? Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that I like Lisa's grandmother's story. I think it's sweet.
Cool. I like the story too. I wish there was a little more setup. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I feel it.
I think it's a nice idea. I really like how everything comes together in that way, but like it would have been cool if we saw her or alluded to her or anything at all, because it was like, it did feel like it kind of came out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Like I do like that story though. It's really nice. Like Mr. Astor gives up his seat for Leela's grandmother and great grandmother essentially. And so like, that's the reason they're still around. And so it's a nice moment. I do also laugh pretty hard at when they kind of clean it up when Leela just goes, "Mom, how come I never heard about this?" She goes, "Because my mother's nuts." It's pretty funny. It's kind of, I guess that slightly addresses my concern comedically. But I just think I would have liked it to be a more emotionally impactful reveal. And I think they could have done more to make it feel like it was its own. It was like set up and not coming out of left field, you know?
Right. I feel that.
And then like the double twist where it's like, oh, Fry was never a mutant. That's Mr. Astor himself. Like, that's
yeah.
But I do laugh. Like I laughed hysterically at like her being like, "Astor, is that you?" and walking up and kissing him, and then Zoidberg going, "Hooray, a happy ending for the rich people."
Yeah.
That is so good. So funny. I died. I really like this episode. I think they did a
Good
very
up.
good job with their 100th. I think they made it be impactful in terms of the like lore and the future of the show. They change up the status quo. They reveal some new stuff about Leela's history. They make it very emotional. And they make the core of it like they're like, I feel like a lot of the core of it is Fry and Leela centric, which is great, where it's just like Fry messes up and feels so bad about it that he's like, will do anything to make up for it. It's a very good one. I really like this episode.
Yeah,
big fan.
Good up. Good up.
Good ep. All right, let's move on to 613 Futurama Holiday Spectacular. I think this is another one that you like more than me, but I know you didn't love it. You didn't love it overall either, but
right.
Let's see. So this is the first. Oh wait, let's see what this is real nuts that I said this before.
I gotta hear it now.
I gave it a 5. I gave it a 5
Whoa!
out of 5.
This piece
solid,
of shit.
Solid ep. Definitely top 5 this season. Loved all the deaths and callbacks. To be clear in how drastically my opinion has changed of this episode, looking at every episode ranked, this is second to last. And at the time I was like, best one yet. This is great.
Wow, man. What time will do to a person's taste.
I know, man. Yeah, it's rough. I think there are a few. I think there's a lot of funny ideas in this. This one bums me out though on a like production fundamental level too, because it's the first anthology we've gotten where they abandoned the what if machine. They abandoned the tales of interest thing.
Yeah.
And that to me felt like such a rich idea. You could do so much with it and you don't need to theme them, or you could theme them through the what if machine.
I'm about to say you could have did this with them.
Yes.
It's like, what if we celebrated Kwanzaa? What if we celebrated Wabonica? Like, you could have did this.
And they abandon it entirely for the duration of the they do a anthology episode every 13 episodes, so like 4 in the Futurama revival and only 2 in the original run, and I think outside of reincarnation, like they're all I don't care for any of them that much. But reincarnation is excellent, and that's also one you couldn't really do in the what if machine. You can kind of get away with, but you can kind of get away with doing that one separately. I just like, I don't know. I think maybe their thought was Futurama world is so full of possibilities that like, do we need to ask what if? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why don't we just fundamentally alter something about the characters? Like, I don't know. I don't really get it. I think the biggest issue I have with this one is I don't care for the songs that much. They're usually so good at songs.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the songs, to be honest with you, bro. Like I don't like the first 2. First of all, I can't even tell you what the first one is about. The second one I just hated. Like I didn't fuck with it. One of my notes. Okay, all right. I'm gonna read you my first 2 notes. My first note says, "I barely know what's going on," and my second note says, "Bro, what is this shit? I don't understand." I was like, "What the fuck is this shit?" But man, the Kwanzaa stuff is jokes.
Pretty funny stuff in there.
That shit is funny to me. Like I love that. Yeah. That section saves it for me. Like you're kind of gonna be grossed out where I ranked this episode just because of how funny I thought that Kwanzaa shit was.
That really shit, bumped it up for you.
That shit is it's jokes. I love it.
I like that they expanded every time they brought him back. They expanded Kwanzaa Bot.
That's all I wrote. One of my notes is my guy Coolio. Rest easy. Peace, rest in peace, Coolio.
Man, that was one of my notes also. And also we're gonna get him again. Allegedly he recorded for the new season of Futurama, so we'll get him, which is actually, and we'll get a nice, I'm sure we'll get a nice in memoriam like card for him at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Oh man,
he's my guy Coolio.
I love him as Kwanzaa so much.
He's
I love him
man,
as Kwanzaa
and he's so
much.
funny. He calls the white boondocks. He says he tells them about the candles, and he says they might as well be he said they got to be made of beeswax, or y'all might as well be white. And then like the entire cast is like writing it down. Might as well be. It's so funny. Like everything
great.
about this shit is funny.
He's always been funny as Kwanzaa. Like even in his first appearance, where he flies next to Bender and he's just like, I'm handing out the traditional Kwanzaa book, and it's the What the Hell is Kwanzaa Anyway book. And he goes, man, I've been giving these out for 300 years. It's such a good delivery. Oh man. I also love him in Bender's Big Score. They do the song in the they do the song in when they're preparing, they're having the elves build weapons of war for them so that they can
check it out. Kwanzaa bot and the Nep Tizzle Hizzle. Yeah, man.
Right.
That's my shit.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's great. He's great. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah,
and it's actually really
Coolio.
And like before that, they didn't really get him to rap as Kwanzaa bot. They just had him do the voice. Like
yeah,
they didn't rap in the first appearance.
That wasn't even their objective. It was just Coolio, and it's
they just like Coolio.
Yeah,
I love that.
I love it.
Oh man!
I wrote down. Well, first of all, Barbados Slim is here. He shows up,
so it's like bumps it up for you. I know Barbados Slim.
In my head, I was like, what the fuck is wrong with La Barbara? Like, why would she invite Barbados Slim?
Right. Well, like, also, I feel like you look at all of these and they're not canonical. You know, they're all like these weird. Yeah. Because everyone dies in all of them. Every single one, they all die. Yeah.
I like the when they meet the Queen Bee. Like, I freaked out. I'm like, who the fuck is voicing this bee? And it's just the woman that plays La Barbara.
Oh, nice.
Right. And fam. Again, just appealing to my sensibilities. You got Barbados Slim in there, you got Kwanzaa bot in there, and then you got this very specific scene from Raging Bull that we make fun of in my house all the time. Fuck my wife. So when you get your balls big enough to ask me something like that, and then they do that in here with the bees, and it killed me.
Oh, that's so funny.
You sting my wife?
You sting my wife?
You get your balls big enough to ask me that.
I forgot that they go back to the space bees. Sorry,
they do, yeah.
Because like so they allude to the space bees in the pilot, space wasps they say, because in the pilot he's like, I've got the career trips of my old crew, and it's like contents of space wasp's stomach, and he's dumping them out. And then that's the premise of the sting is like, my old crew tried to do this. And like, I think they find one of the old captains there, it melted into the wall. So this is like, it's interesting to go back to the space bees. I guess it makes sense if you're doing the beeswax thing with the candles. There are definitely, the last part is the highlight of this episode. So the rest, like, I don't even like, there was one laugh I had early on, which is, it's like, it's brought to you by Gunderson's Nuts or whatever. And they try the nuts, like Nutso brand nuts or whatever. And Amy eats it and she goes, it's not so good, which I think is funny. I think that's cute. Yeah. And yeah, I do also like the Al Gore sign off, where he signs off, he like closes it and he's like, all your Fry, Bender, and Leela will be back next year with more Futurama. Like yeah.
I like that too.
I like that a lot. That's very funny. They always use Al Gore in fun ways, I feel like. It's like, and it's just so funny that they get him every time to play himself. I love it so much. Yeah. But yeah, this one's low on my list. I don't love this one. Don't love it. Still pretty low. I do think I think I see the last act more fondly than I did before, but this one's still pretty
I feel
low
like,
for me.
Like I said, I don't remember what happens in the first part, and I hated the second one. Like the Bender shit, I hated it. So like, I feel
yeah, man. And that was also a callback.
I'm gonna fix this. I don't like where I got it. I just scrolled down to my ranking. I got this shit in a sick area. I don't like where I got it.
You're gonna change it?
Yeah, I got this shit in a sick area. This isn't fucking fair. All right. I'm gonna fix my shit. I'll fix it.
All right. Let's say, okay, let's before we do our rankings, let's talk our How do you feel? First of all, coming into this, seeing it for the first time since it aired, how do you feel about the season overall? How do you feel about season 6A, these 13 episodes of Futurama?
I think that, like, I remember we talked about something like this before, where you felt like because of like the really, really great ones that we got, that like it was just worth it to get more.
Yeah.
And I think I always got that, but like I think like watching these now, like I think I really get it because it's still funny. Like I don't know why I just thought that it was like, because I think that was kind of burned into my brain from being on the internet. Maybe that like it's just kind of a shell of what it is. That's not. I don't think that's what it is. Like I think it's slightly different Futurama, and sure, like, and I also think that the second half of these 13 is like better than the first half of these 13.
Agreed. It felt like they were really getting their footing, and the first half is a little rough, especially characterization wise. They do things with characters that are just like, oh, really? Why are we doing this? Too topical in a couple episodes, doing things that like are just questionable, like the whole Leela thing in A God of the Leela coming right after Into the Wild Green Yonder. It's just like, oh, like I don't get why you're doing some of these things. And then like the messiness of having to re-enter the show with Rebirth after the cliffhanger, you know, like it's tough. But man, like I think pretty much from like the Da Vinci Code, I think is a funny episode, and like not one of my favorites this season, but like where I'm just like, oh, I don't really have any problems with the character stuff. This is a fun idea, funny idea, fun concepts, fun sci-fi concepts. Lethal Inspection comes in and it's just a fucking banger, like a good episode through and through. Late Philip J. Fry, one of the best of the show, wins the Emmy. And then even I think almost everything on the back half, like the only two that I don't love on the back half are Irreconcilable and Hidden Differences and the Futurama Holiday Spectacular. Everything else I quite like. I love Lethal Inspection, Late Philip J. Fry, Prisoner of Benda, and Mutants Are Revolting. The rest I'm like, these are solid and generally better than the first half. And yeah, I like this season. Like I especially this first chunk. I think this is of the revival era. This is my favorite set. Granted, there are ones coming up that I like. Like actually, no, like we're going to go through a. So we're going to go through a little, basically the back end of the next set of episodes. The last three, just really great. Like I think this season ends great and starts solid. There's a couple solid ones at the beginning. There's a couple stinkers in here, a couple that I don't like.
Okay.
And then like I think I'm less. I know I'm like less intimately familiar with the following couple seasons, like the season 7A and B. But there are good ones in here. I think if I'm looking at it, I think 7A is probably the weakest stretch. Okay. And then I think 7B actually like has some really solid ones and ends on like a 5 streaker. I would say.
Good,
like
good
yeah, like really they ended the show strong. And even ones that I don't like as much as other people do, like Game of Tones is the 4th to last episode. I think it's not nearly as good as people say it is, but the ending of it is just so undeniable that you can't walk out feeling anything but like, wow, this was good. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's like I think overall I'm still I think I did my retrospective on this. Like, was it a mistake to revive Futurama? This is before I knew they were going to do it again. And I don't think it was. I do think there's stuff that's not as great, but I think there are just too many great episodes that I would be really sad if we never got. Like if I jumped universes like Rick and Morty did, and I lived in a universe where this never happened, I would be like, fuck, I can never watch Lethal Inspection again. like really? Like what? That would bum me out. And also I think Meanwhile is a better ending than Into the Wild Green Yonder. So
I would agree there. Yeah.
But man, this is I'm really glad I'm very happy we decided to do this. It's been so long since we talked Futurama, and even these where I was a little worried that like you would not love these as much. Like great discussions. I feel like we were mostly on the same page too. We were like we see where they have shortcomings, but we see where they have really great stuff as well. Yeah, this is a good set of episodes. Happy with this. What do you think they should learn from this going into these next 10?
Don't over explain, because a lot of these episodes, like the words you used was sweaty, and I agree. Like a lot of these are just kind of like, oh, okay, so this means that, and that means this, and this happened because of that. Let's stop that shit. Number one, I think that's the first thing they should take into account, and just paying close attention to just like the character that they've built up and like what they would and wouldn't do. Right. Like what a character.
Be careful with the Flanderization type of stuff. Yeah,
like what a character wouldn't do is way more important than what they would do.
Agreed.
And like you just gotta make sure that you like. I know you want to do this and that or whatever, tell all these different stories, but you gotta step back and realize the characters that were created and like what it was established are their morals and like like the relationships they have with certain people. And I feel like that's what they learned in the back half of these. So I mean, like, I don't know, maybe we will get a couple in the next run where like they're just kind of forget who Fry is for a little bit.
Yeah,
but I'm sure they'll figure it out. Like,
yeah, as long as it's not all of them. you know, as long as it's not like, are these all different characters all the time now? Like, Yeah,
that's what it is. For real.
I am really eager to see. Man, it's just so weird. It's so weird to think that there's going to be new Futurama soon. Like, especially because if you look at the history of the show, like, yeah, there was a long wait. They waited, how many years between the last episode aired in 2003 and then the first movie was 2007? And so that's only 4 years between the last episode and the first movie. And there was
forever, but it
felt like forever. I remember going and buying the Futurama video game and comics because I was just like desperate for more. I was like, this is all I got. Played through that game, which is hard, not easy or fun. And just so I could get that story. And they also, and now they, there's only a year between Into the Wild Green Yonder and the start of the Comedy Central revival. And now it'll have been 13 years since the final episode of Futurama. 13 years. It's going to be weird, man. It's going to be weird. It's going to be so weird to cover new episodes of Futurama on my channel. I'm excited though. I'm excited. And like, I'm excited to keep talking about these. So we'll have, after this episode, we'll be covering 7 or 6B. We're going to put this out on Twitter and our community post to make sure you guys watch the right ones because it's really confusing. Yeah. So, all right, should we jump into the ranking?
Let's do it.
All right. I'm going to go, do we go bottom to top? Is that how we do it? Yeah.
Yeah, bottom to top.
All right. 13, the Futurama Holiday Spectacular. 12, Attack of the Killer App. 11, Irreconcilable Indifferences. 10, Rebirth. 9, Proposition Infinity. 8, That Darn Katz. 7, A Clockwork Origin. 6, Inagata Dalila. 5, The Da Vinci Code. 4, The Mutants Are Revolting. 3, The Prisoner of Benda. 2, Lethal Inspection. And 1, The Late Philip J. Fry.
Man, this is wild. We like line up and we like here and here a few times. It's wild.
Yeah.
I got 13, Attack of the Killer App. 12, the Futurama Holiday Spectacular, which I just put it down.
You moved down. How high did you put it up? How high was it?
Bro, that shit was at like 7. I was like, what the fuck?
That last act wasn't that good.
Yeah. I had to walk that shit back, bro. I ain't like that. I had to walk that shit back. 11, I got Rebirth. 10, I got A Clockwork Origin. 9, I got That Darn Katz. 8, Proposition Infinity. 7, The Da Vinci Code. 6, The Prisoner of Benda. 5, Inagata Dalila. 4, The Mutants Are Revolting. 3,
irreconcilable indifferences.
Yeah.
The 2 lethal inspection. I keep wanting to say lethal injection because of the fucking. And number 1, I got the late Philip J. Fry.
Hell yeah. Happy to see that 3 of our top 4 are the same,
Right.
and that the Prisoner of Benda isn't too far below it. And I love that you like irreconcilable indifferences.
Love that shit.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. That's great to hear. That's one thing I didn't expect going into this, was that you would love one that I don't love, because I feel like I'm so generous to these episodes sometimes. You know what I mean? So I was like, if I don't like it, he's gonna hate it. So that's good though. I love to hear that. Awesome, man. This was great. I'm really glad we did this. This is a long fucking episode. You're welcome, all of you.
Word.
That's just what happens when we talk about these. I can't believe we did. This is only 13 episodes. We did seasons like how long are seasons like? Let me see how long our episodes for seasons like 3 and 4 are. They're probably shorter than this and so many more episodes. Isn't that weird to say?
It's maybe like 2:30 or something like that, right? And something around there.
Season 1, we got almost 2 hours. That's only 13 though, so that's like the closest comparison. But we did 13 here, and we're talking for 3 hours. So
right,
over 3 hours.
What does this podcast become?
What have we become? We can't shut the fuck up.
Right.
Futurama season 2, 2 hours and 7 minutes for season 2. 2 hours and 48 minutes for season 3, 2 hours 46 minutes for season 4. So we did talk for a while, but those are longer seasons.
20
those are like
somethings, right?
Yeah, they're close to 20. They're like 17 to 20 or so episodes per season. So that's, yeah, I guess we just have more to say these days. We also did a pretty long cold open, so pretty long. I mean, we talked for 3 hours about 13 episodes of King of the Hill and 3.5 hours, 13 episodes of Simpsons. So we're pretty much matching that energy again.
Yeah.
This podcast is a lot of work, you guys. We just this is like our whole day. It's like takes our whole day. It's our whole day.
Yeah,
we got other stuff to do, but we love it. We do it for you. All right, let's sign off. You got anything to plug, Tariq? You want to plug Chipmunk Adventure?
Yeah, Chipmunk Adventure. I just did the Chipmunk Adventure. Did a video on the Chipmunk Adventure. Been the most wholesome reaction I've ever gotten to posting a video. So many people are just like, man, I thought I was the only person that knew this movie. It's either that or it's just like, it was really cathartic. There's a lot of Chipmunk fans, like the fandom found it, and they're just like, fam, we've been starving, bruh. Like, I can't remember the last Chipmunk thing that came out, so thank you. And I'm like, oh, it's just all really sweet. So, haven't seen the video yet. Watch Chipmunk Adventure video.
Love to see it. Absolutely love to hear that. I put out an episode about Over the Garden Wall. I'm pretty happy with it, except for that I went the extra mile to make these very fancy title cards, and I misspelled the word unknown in them like a huge fucking idiot.
It happens, man.
I'm so mad. So mad. But please check that one out. I'm pretty proud of it. I also did Mr. Peanut Butter's Booze. Those were my 2 Halloween videos. Talked about that BoJack episode. I recently did a video about how Aang was not a terrible father. He was just a flawed one. Check that one out if you like Avatar. And check out my Tuka video, Tuka's Relationships. Shout out to Tuka and Birdie. Great fucking show. I'm gonna make at least 2 more Tuka and Birdie videos, even though it's done. I'm gonna do one on Speckle and I'm gonna do one on Birdie. And so
when I shared the Tuka video after it came out, the caption I put said something about that I edited, and somebody replied and was like, oh, so like, did you just openly admit to being responsible for Tuka's ass being the first thing we see as soon as she's mentioned? And I was like, fam, that's the first shot of her in the show. That's why I did it.
Lisa Hannawalt is the one responsible for that. Oh my gosh. That's so funny though. That is a really funny response to that. Love it. I also did one on The Simpsons. I think I talked about that in our Simpsons 33 episode.
Best Johnny Tuccello's video is stamped.
That's what Tariq says. It's Tariq's fave of mine. I am proud of that one. I think it's good. I want to figure out how to talk about The Simpsons more. How good was that Treehouse of Horror, dude?
Yeah, man, that shit
That shit
good.
crazy.
Good one. I loved all three
of
segments. Really good.
The first one is so sweet. Yeah,
I love the first one.
The ending, and I love it. And good vibes.
It's great. Cool. All right. If you like this and you want more of this, you should definitely check out our Patreon. It's $5 a month, and you get an absolute ass load of bonus episodes. We have so many. We just did one that was our first mailbag episode where we allowed our patrons to ask us questions. We're going to do that again in the future. So if you want to be able to ask us anything you want and have us answer it, you should jump on that Patreon. Guaranteed that question will be answered. It's a nice length episode. Let me go back. Let's go back and look through all our... I want to look back and list off some of the stuff we've got. So last one was our mailbag. We just did a series on Matt Stone and Trey Parker. So we did Basketball, Orgasmo, Cannibal the Musical, Team America, and That's My Bush. that's my bush. We covered the Fritz the Cats films. We covered all the Toy Stories, including the Toy Story tunes. We did Paddington 2, Ted 2, Anomalisa, all of the Shreks, including Puss in Boots. There's like 20 plus extra episodes if you sign up for the Patreon.
You got a lot of eating to do, man.
It's a lot. And we even have a separate feed. You can basically just paste an RSS feed into your favorite podcast platform or app, and you'll get our episodes given to you every week on there. So you don't even have to go to Patreon to listen to them there exclusively. Plus you get a video link to see the video versions. So it's there's a lot on there, and you get a say in what we cover on there. So we don't know what we're covering next. We're going to do Wes Anderson. We're going to do the animated Wes Andersons. Was that the plan?
Maybe.
I'd be down for that. Those movies are great.
That's the one we talked about the most, I think.
You ever seen that one? I can't remember. You said no? You never seen Fantastic Mr. Fox? Bro, you're going to love that movie. You're going to love Fantastic Mr. Fox. It's so good. It's like truly one of my favorite movies. It's really great.
Nice.
Cool. And with that, I want to thank Carrie Feek for incredible artwork. I want to thank Jake Neutron for our wonderful theme song. I would like to thank Michael Yunez for producing and editing the podcast, as well as co-hosting every After Dark episode with us for the Patreon. I also want to thank Tariq for coming on here each and every week and talking about cartoons for way too long with me. and I want to thank all of you for listening and supporting us. We love you so much. We couldn't do without you. But with that being said, also, you very much.